Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live, and oh boy, is it quite the exciting pre-market. If you are waking up right now or you are just checking your portfolio, you are seeing some green. Palantir, all-time highs in the pre-markets, 189.05. There was a spike to 190 yesterday that some people saw in their brokerages, other people didn't see, but we are at 189 in the pre-markets. Hoodie, 115.62. That's up 1.3%. AMD fell to 165 after earnings. AMD right now is up 3% in the pre-markets. That's at 180. SoFi, 24.32. She broke out to 24 in the overnight markets, got to 23.60 last night, 23.65. It was the highest close since 2021 for SoFi. And now you're seeing in the pre-markets right here, 24.32, which is very exciting to see. Grabby grab. They held her below $5 last night, closed at $4.98. It's breaking out above $5. We'll see if it can hold above $5, but $5.03 right here in the pre-markets. Google at $2.04, Tesla at $3.42. You got Apple that's green, SMCI that's green. Apple's trying to go for $2.31. You got Bitcoin that's at 130.3. And then, of course, one of the reasons I slept late last night is because of Ethereum crossing 47 hundo in the pre-markets. Very, very exciting to see. Obviously, this asset class has completely changed the dynamics of the crypto industry, and the leveraged assets like a BMNR against it are up 7% in the pre-markets because they have bought a lot of Ethereum. And the headline yesterday, outside of CPI, which is kind of the reason we hit all-time highs on the S&P 500. By the way, we closed at all-time highs. We are now again at a new all-time high in the pre-market, 644.50. Tom Lee did say this would be the breakaway week for the S&P 500, where we could get to 6,500. Seems like there is a chance to get there, but Tom Lee did say he's raising $20 billion for Ethereum yesterday. That got people very excited for the fact that you have an Ethereum treasury, not to mention all the other little Ethereum treasuries that have popped up over the past couple weeks that are going to be bidding up this asset. And then you've got CPI that came in lower than expected, so that means rate cuts are likely on the way. There is now a 95% chance for a September rate cut. The liquidity that will increase as a result of a rate cut should also be very good for the asset. We are seeing an environment where the market is benefiting profoundly from the different macro dynamics. And first and foremost, it starts with the incredible Q2 we've had so far in regards to earnings. Some companies here and there didn't do the best, like a Coreweave. We'll talk about their results. They are down 10% in the pre-markets. But in aggregate, companies have beat about 80% of them by 7% on average. And that's why you are getting some momentum. Yes, it is the most hated V-shaped rally, but my goodness, this V-shaped rally is getting some momentum. You had Standard Charter right there that raised their Ethereum target to 7,500 this morning as a result of seeing some momentum. And then that Peter Thiel stock, ATNF, that he bought 7.5% of yesterday in the after hours. It was disclosed. It was up 200% yesterday. It's up another 45% right now. I mean, and this is an Ethereum treasury, which is, basically why it's been getting its momentum. But Peter Thiel taking a stake in this and in BMNR is really getting people to believe that smart money is getting excited for Ethereum. Here was Tom Lee this morning speaking about the macro and Ethereum and why he continues to be bullish.
In some of the work we've done, we believe it's the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that stable coins have really become the chat GPT moment for crypto. And now we have the Genius Act and Project Crypto from the SEC, which is Wall Street, essentially running onto the blockchain. But one of the best ways we believe to sort of have exposures through Ethereum treasuries, and that's a company like Bitmine, which I've become chairman recently.
So when we're talking about Ethereum, it's one cryptocurrency. Stablecoins are obviously in the news, especially with the Circle IPO and Circle just reporting its earnings and offering more shares. And then you mentioned this Bitcoin as well. Why are you so bullish on Ethereum? What are the opportunities you're seeing in Ethereum in particular?
Well, Ethereum is the second largest blockchain. And it's different than Bitcoin because with Bitcoin, you can't really do programmable contracts, so smart contracts. Wall Street needs to find a stable and legally compliant blockchain to work on. The majority of stablecoin creations are taking place on Ethereum. And when you look at where JP Morgan is building a lot of its layer 2s or Coinbase or Robinhood, they're choosing to do it on Ethereum. So it is the place where Wall Street is essentially financializing the system.
All right. So, by the way, you're not the only bullish person or bullish company when it comes to Ethereum. We're just looking right now. Standard Charter raising its year-end target for Ethereum to 7,500 from 4,000. Right now, Ethereum's trading right around, I believe, 4,700. Are you this bullish, 7,500 by year-end?
I think that's within the realm of expectations. Ethereum, I think first needs to clear its prior highs of around 4,800. It's within 6% of that now. Believe it or not, Bitcoin's obviously been making many new all-time highs this year, but Ethereum is still below its 2022 highs, 2021, 2022. So I think once it clears that level, I think Ethereum and small caps tend to be correlated. So to me, 7,500 actually might even be on the low end of what's possible.
Really?
I think I've seen many targets of 10 to 15,000.
All right, one more time before we get out of here. You're known for your granny shots. Can you give us one of your granny shots right now with the fact that we have the markets trading at all-time highs, the S&P and the NASDAQ, again, closing at record highs yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think really one of the granniest of our granny shots is NVIDIA. It's still one of the most important companies. Well, it's probably the most important company in the world. And in terms of forward multiple at 30 times, it's actually still reasonably priced. I believe its PE multiple is still ranks number 38. There are 37 stocks in the S&P 500 with a higher PE than NVIDIA.
All right, we've got to leave the conversation there. Tom Lee, it is always great to see you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the picks and the time.
So, I mean, look, you got Tom Lee, who's been talking about this Ethereum thesis for a long time. Again, for those that haven't really caught up, it's, in my opinion, boils down to the stablecoin revolution that we're seeing, which changes the financial system along with tokenization, as Tom Lee mentioned about Robinhood, tokenizing at this point stocks. Eventually, it will be every single asset class on the planet. Robinhood will not be alone. BlackRock, JP Morgan, Kraken, Coinbase, every large financial institution will tokenize an asset just because it'll be easier for that asset to then be traded. It will provide more accessibility and access to liquidity for assets to be traded. And that will all run on Ethereum, or at least a significant majority of it will run on Ethereum. And that's why the market's excited. So this run that ETH is having, $100 away from all-time highs, does not feel like 2021, where it was hype and mania and NFTs were the reason why people are buying Ethereum. This feels real. This feels real. This feels like it's institutionalized. We had ETH inflows yesterday that were pretty incredible. So 2 days ago, we had its first $1 billion day for Ethereum in the BlackRock and Fidelity, all those ETFs combined. Yesterday, not bad, 523 million, $500 million. And the day before that, it was 461 million. The day before that, 220 million. So you've seen consecutive days of multi-hundred million, if not billion-dollar inflows. A lot of this coming from institutional investors, again, that can't buy the actual asset, but they have to buy the regulated ETF in order to get exposure. And that in and of itself continues to be bullish for Ethereum. Now, when it comes to BM&R, I keep getting this question, are you buying BM&R here? I'm not personally buying it here. The way I'm playing Ethereum is more so through Robinhood, but everyone has their own way to play it. I think on BM&R, the only risk, because there are risks to this, it's not just that Ethereum goes up and this goes up. That's what it feels like right now. But if Tom Lee chooses to dump any of the shares that he has the ability to dump, which is not only 20 billion, it's about 24 billion, because they already have 4 billion that could be dumped on shareholders as well. That's $24 billion of stock that eventually will be diluted into the price. Now, if you bought this thing, like I know a couple of people that bought this at $10, $20, they don't really care, right? Because even if it is, A, is it going to go back down to 10? Probably not. That would be well below its net asset value. B, if it does go back, they would see that as a buying opportunity. But could this go from 65 to 45? Yeah, I think that could, right? Like if they dilute a lot of shares, like, yeah, you'll see it. We saw this happen already. So from that perspective, I think that's the only risk to this. And you just have to be careful of that. But I'm excited to see the asset class get momentum. And I think it's a good leveraged way to get momentum if you actually have a long-term horizon on Ethereum. And if you really have a long-term horizon on Ethereum and you don't really care about the dilution, or you don't want to deal with the risks of that, you could just buy Ethereum, right? You could just buy BlackRock's ETF fund, which, look, I was looking at the BlackRock ETF funds yesterday. I said Robinhood has better premiums. I actually went deep into the numbers last night. I was wrong. BlackRock's ETF on a 0.2 delta call 1 month out has almost double the premium. Robinhood was paying 1.4%. BlackRock was paying 2.5%. So not quite double the premium, but it is more. And that actually did get me interested from a call selling perspective. So maybe it's just juiced up right now. But when I did the numbers last night, I checked them over twice. I was like, no, BlackRock does have better premiums, at least on those 0.2 deltas a month out. So, and Ethereum and BlackRock can't get diluted, right? This is just one-to-one exposure with Ethereum. Now, it's not going to run crazy like BM&R. That's the alpha you get on Bitmine. But still, that is another way you can get exposure. My point here is I think having some type of exposure to the broader crypto trade makes sense. Whether you want to do it through Ethereum or Bitcoin is up to you. But I think I said this in January when Trump launched the meme coin. I hated that he launched the meme coin. It just felt really weird and scummy. But as an investor, you can't deny the president of the United States just launched a meme coin. I mean, the regulatory environment that is opened up for Ethereum and Bitcoin and just overall digital assets is incredible. And as a result, we are seeing the rise in this industry. And it looks like that rise is not stopping anytime soon, as long as developers continue to build applications on these blockchains and these blockchains continue to be useful for society, which from the Fed's perspective, especially when it comes to treasury demand, it is very useful when you look at that with stablecoins. So it's exciting. It's very, very, very exciting to see. I think there's a bunch of different ways to play it. But it's exciting to see how the momentum on Ethereum is stacking up. They have to dilute to continue buying. It is not a risk if you know it is going to happen. I agree. I mean, like, the reason I say risk is because, you know, if you buy something at 65 and it goes to 45, people start crying about why is it down to 45. But theoretically, that is the function of the treasury. So if you know that's going to happen and you're willing to buy it and then just DCA down, which shout out to Kathy. That's basically what she did. Kathy bought it. They diluted like a day after she bought it. It fell. She bought a lot more. I think she's loaded up on almost $500 million of BMNR. And I think now she's up all time because she kind of knew what was going to happen. She probably didn't know when it was going to happen, and she just kept buying. And that's why, her bag is getting strong when it comes to BMNR. The other thing is, again, we talked about liquidity on BMNR. It is now the 25th most liquid stock in the market. You just might have so many people that buy the damn thing, even with the dilution, that the dilution might not matter as much in terms of stock price action. We're going to see when it does happen, but this is becoming the name of Wall Street when it comes to crypto. And that's why it's very exciting. Now, if you look at Google Trends right here, altcoins, this was from yesterday, the search term altcoins is reaching an all-time high. So you're starting to see retail that is coming back and getting excited about what's going on with the broader crypto markets. And as a result, that is also why this IPO that I'm not participating in today, but is going live at around 12 p.m., even though it is not a retail crypto exchange, is also getting a lot of momentum. The IPO is 20x oversubscribed. It is called Bullish. It is going to be priced at $37 a share. And today we're going to see how Wall Street interprets this IPO.
Joins us now with much more. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. Yeah, so that $1 billion is up from the $990 million we were looking at yesterday. They are offering 30 million shares, pricing their IPO at $37 per share, and that is above the expected range of between $32 and $33 that we were looking at, which would give the company a total market value of $5.4 billion. And you can see that demand and investor appetite for this IPO really has grown, which is unsurprising if you've been following all of the regulatory developments and the price action in the crypto market. Originally, Bullish had marketed 20 million shares, 20.3 million shares at a much lower range beginning at $28 a share.
Okay, so it's kind of gotten boosted up a bit now to about $1.1 billion. I think the person really backing it, Peter Thiel, is a big part of this story.
Yeah.
Obviously known from Palantir, PayPal Mafia, everything else going on.
And now the ETH Treasury company.
Exactly. I mean, you just kind of keep going here.
Yeah.
I'm curious, the Peter Thiel involvement, what does that exactly mean to investors? I mean, again, we just mentioned some of the companies that he's known for. Do investors see it being a big tailwind that he's back in the company? Because it doesn't seem like the world just needs another crypto exchange. There's so many already.
There's so many going public at the moment too, even just in the last couple of months. It is a big flashy name. He's PayPal Mafia. He's had a lot of successes. I think he's been pretty open in the past about the fact that he, while a lot of his portfolio companies are crypto related, or several of them at least, he has said he kind of missed the boat on Bitcoin. So it is not surprising to see him kind of jump into a company like Bullish or Bitmine Immersion, the Bitcoin miner that has turned into an ETH Treasury company, chaired by Tom Lee, of course.
Yeah, we're talking to Tom Lee later in the show, so great shout out to lead us there.
And yeah, you're really seeing at this moment just a lot of companies kind of taking advantage of the regulatory tailwinds. We just saw the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, signed into the first U.S. crypto law. Trump's the White House has, of course, been very, very crypto friendly. And so you're seeing all of these companies jump in. A couple of months ago, we saw eToro and Circle go public very successfully. The uplisting of Mike Novogratz's Galaxy Digital to the NASDAQ, and BitGo and Gemini, of course, have also confidentially
filed. I mean, that kind of speaks to my point. Like, there's no shortage of these crypto exchanges. Besides Peter Thiel's involvement, is there anything else that separates this company from some of the other exchanges out there?
It is interesting. It is not fully operational in the U.S. right now. It's headquartered in the Cayman Islands.
I did not know that. I did not know that it's not fully operational in the U.S.
This is, the company's second attempt in the 4 years since its inception, trying to go public. It's so different from a Coinbase. It's very focused on institutions, whereas Coinbase has, of course, a lot of institutional partnerships and offerings. Their exchange really is more retail focused. So this is an institutional exchange, sophisticated, if you want to use that word. It's really focused on marrying kind of decentralized finance with the security of a centralized exchange.
All right, IPO.
Okay, so again, look, my thoughts on this. I think the IPO is going to do well. I'm not participating in this. I do see the IPO as exit liquidity. I'm sorry. I see it as exit liquidity. I think if Peter Thiel wasn't involved, no one would care. I've never heard of this institutional exchange ever. The fact that this is their second attempt at IPOing means they tried to do it a while ago. It wasn't the right liquid environment. This is a much more liquid environment. People are willing to buy IPOs. So I think the IPO will do well because the ticker symbol is literally bullish and it's inside of the crypto renaissance that we are seeing right now. Does that mean it's a phenomenal company or it's a great deal? I don't really think so, which is why I'm not head over heels of trying to get an allocation. And also, I don't know if Robinhood would even give anyone a meaningful allocation. So if you do get an allocation, let me know. The IPO should be live at 12 p.m. And I mean, if it goes up and you want to be classified as a flipper and you can still make some money, then it is what it is. If you actually want to hold on for 30 days as per whatever brokerage policy they have, then maybe it's a good deal as well. But I think today it will make a move. I mean, Peter Thiel, crypto, you got an ecosystem that's ripe for explosion. It's just a question of how much momentum can it sustain going into the post-IPO once that's done. So we're going to see how that plays out. Bullish, BLSH, that is the ticker symbol. And we'll see the IPO later in the day. Now, two more things on crypto, and then we'll move on. IBIT is now one of the top 20 largest ETFs in the market. $86.5 billion of assets in BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. It is absolutely incredible. It has changed everything when it comes to the institutionalization of crypto. And as a result, you are seeing a lot of momentum for Bitcoin as well, which is now back above 120. And this right here, 116 billion has been added to the crypto market cap in the past 24 hours. It is now above 4.5 trillion overall. Bitcoin taking up about 2.3 trillion of that 4.5 trillion. Ethereum at around 550 billion. So you are seeing a lot of momentum when it comes to the crypto markets. And, right now it's good. There's people that are willing to buy. There's money that's coming in. There's use cases that are there. I know some people are calling it toppy. I personally don't see the same vibes as 2021, but you never know. I just think the reason Ethereum and Bitcoin have had a run is more fundamental than based on some NFT smart contract. And, back in 2021, you did not have the BlackRock ETF for Bitcoin. So you just have a lot more institutionalization on these crypto assets as well. All right, let's get into some stuff on the stock market as well. So there's all your crypto updates. We got a bunch of things going on in the broader markets. First of all, S&P 500 again, 644.63. That's all-time highs. Let me put a poll right here in the chat. What do you guys think happens? Do we continue with this green, or do we end up having a red day on the S&P? I mean, again, yesterday was a really bullish day based on the CPI report. Came in bullish across the board outside of core. And you got a lot of momentum, which is why the market's getting excited. BlackRock's Rick Reider came out yesterday and said, hey, I think this is the best investing environment for investors in a very long time. And that's led through the advance of AI, basically saying we are seeing a ton of momentum in AI. And if you're an investor, any dip is worth buying. Pretty much even Liz Young, every analyst that I've seen talk about what's going on, their argument is, hey, maybe we need a breather, but any dip is worth buying. And that's why it's very exciting. Take a look at this stat right here. The top 7 companies, the Mag 7, they are now $300 billion away from crossing over a $20 trillion market cap. It's just incredible. It is just incredible. Microsoft's very close to it. Apple's inching up. Google finally breaking above 200. Amazon 2.3. Meta holding 790. Meta looks like it wants 800 real soon. And then you got Tesla right there holding 1 trillion. NVIDIA obviously 4.4 trillion. NVIDIA is $25 away from being a $5 trillion company. It is just the rich get richer when it comes to the Max 7, but that's not how it was in the beginning of the year. In the beginning of the year, it was the Max 7 were the worst trade to be in, given all of them were down anywhere from 20 to 30% year to date. But these companies have exceptional balance sheets, exceptional free cash flows, tons of net income. Microsoft and Google putting up more than $100 billion of profit per year. it's just hard to ignore them. And I think that's why the market is continuing to be excited about these Mag 7 names as well. Now, AMD, I don't know if there's a headline right here in the pre-markets. Let's do a little bit of a search real quick. If anyone has a headline, let me know. But that one's at 174. NVIDIA is lagging behind AMD. Oklo's at 81.52 all-time highs because Oklo is selected for 3 projects underneath the U.S. Department of Energy Reactors Pilot Program. So this is just Oklo has been selected as the de facto nuclear energy company by the DoD, or by the DOE, I should say, the Department of Energy. And as a result, this thing does not trade on earnings. There is no earnings. There is no revenue, but it's up more than 230% year to date. So if you got into Oklo early this year or at any time below, I don't know, 30, 40, even below $50, it's done very well. And it looks like it has a shot to really grow into its valuation if the country needs energy, and they are the de facto company that will get that energy those energy contracts from the United States DOE. And that's why it's very exciting for Oklo right there. That's up 3.53%. SMR, some of the competitors in the space, that one's also up 3.5%. And the nano nuclear is 1.58%. That's up as well. Yeah, so I don't see the headline on AMD. Feels like it's... Okay, here's the headline. I mean, this is... I don't know if anyone wants to trust this, but Fubon Research, which is part of the Fubon Financial Group and Fubon Securities, one of the largest banks in Taiwan, they raised their price target on AMD, and they said, this is their headline, NVIDIA is reportedly delaying the launch of Rubin due to a redesign aimed at better matching AMD's MI450. That seems to be the headline that's causing shares of AMD to get some momentum. 2.72%. 2.72%. I have no idea if that's true. That is a Taiwanese bank that's making that argument. NVIDIA right here, it's slightly down in the pre-markets. I guess we'll see if some of the big US banks harp on that headline and they actually see if there's any truth to that. If so, it just means AMD's catching up to an extent, right, with their new design. And NVIDIA wants to make Rubin even better, which to me, I just don't see it as a competition. You know, one is a $4 trillion company, one's a $300 billion company. I think both have so much room to grow over the next 5 years. And so they're going to be competitive with each other, but I think both are still going to get a lot of momentum regardless. And so that's why you're seeing some of this. Now, I think NVIDIA would be down more if like a JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs came out and said that. So this one's probably not getting as much coverage, but that seems to be the reason why AMD could be up right now. Google right here, 204 in the pre-markets. And then SoFi, nice little breakout above 24. Nice little breakout above 24. You're seeing some momentum right there. Again, I think 25 is on the horizon, and that's after the dilution, which is also really nice. The fact that the dilution happened and the street is willing to just move on because they don't care that much about it. And so I like that we are seeing SoFi in this price action, and it looks like 25 is not crazy to get to. Okay, Coreweave. Let's talk about Coreweave as well and what's going on. VG did have earnings yesterday, if I'm not wrong. VG right here, wow, up 12%. There you go. VG is getting green, and you're seeing some momentum. And this one, again, in the natural gas category has been doing very well. Oil prices are slightly up. When I mean slightly, I mean literally slightly up. Most of them are down right here in the pre-markets. That's also why the airlines got a 7 to 8% boost yesterday. I think it's because of airline fares going up in CPI and oil prices going down. So they're making more revenue, but their costs are down, which is why I think the street bought airlines yesterday. Remember, yesterday was really exciting because the S&P 500 was hitting a new all-time high above 6,400 without NVIDIA participating. And that, I think, is also very important because you don't need NVIDIA to go up 5% just for the S&P, or you shouldn't need NVIDIA to go up that much for the S&P to get some love. And yesterday it was financials. It was the banks. And I think, again, CPI and the rate cut probability is going higher. CPI going lower, rate cut probability is going higher is likely what led to the banks getting some love. And that's where we saw some of the rotation yesterday on the S&P, which is really good for the S&P 493. Guys, I talked to Chris last night. He will be on the show next week. I know a lot of people have been asking for him. So he will be on the show next week. I know he had the tweet, and the tweet didn't look that good on Alex Karp and Palantir. I get it. So he'll be on next week to kind of address some of the stuff that happened with his tweet. I'm just saying that here publicly right now because I talked to him for like an hour last night on the phone. So Chris is still part of the channel. He's still a good friend. Just because he had a bit of a bad moment, which he agrees it was a bad moment, does not mean that he's blacklisted or anything like that. Like, this is one of my best friends at the end of the day. But he agreed. We were on the phone last night. It was not the best moment, and everyone has he's a human at the end of the day. He crashed out. That's yeah, I was surprised he said that on the phone. He was like, yo, I crashed out. I was like, dude, you know that term? You know what crash out means? But that's the term the kids are using nowadays I can say that because I'm not a kid anymore. I'm going to be 28 in 2 months. The kids are using the term crash out, which is when you kind of, you have a little spat on social media. It is what it is. It happens. So I've had my fair share of those. Chris had his last week, and yesterday he basically apologized for it. It just wasn't the right thing to do. So he'll be on the show next week, and he still hates the valuation. And again, I don't think the concern was ever anyone's contestation with the valuation. It was just more so the low blow at CARP, which was a result of, the crash out essentially. So he'll be live next week, and we're thinking of doing a segment more so. I think one of the things that'll help Chris being on the show is like formalizing his segment, kind of like we do with Jose. And so instead of Chris coming randomly into the middle of a show and then just like random topics being here and there, because I agree as an audience that is also just weird and annoying. It's like just something that's thrown at you. I think every Thursday we're gonna have our own segment on the channel, and so it'll more make it formal, like with Jose, who's on the channel. I think like almost every week, every either Wednesday or Friday, talking about semiconductor stuff. Chris will be on every Thursday to talk more macro stuff. So as long as Chris promises rate cuts, all will be forgiven. Well, I think Chris is on the rate cut bandwagon after these job reports, like a lot of us are. So yes, every Thursday we'll have a little bit of a segment instead of just having it come in randomly. Because I agree, as an audience member, it is, if for any guest that just pulls up randomly and then goes on a tangent, not just Chris, it is kind of like it makes the show just like wonky, when you're in the middle of covering all the news. And so he agreed with that as well. And so he wants to do a segment every Thursday, whatever day it is, but like once a week, where you can actually talk about all the news instead of just randomly coming into the show. So I think that's the way we're going to do it in the future. And we'll keep going from there. If he thought what he said, why did he have to make amends? Well, because it was a low blow, and the reason he also deleted the tweet is because he just didn't like how he felt after the tweet. There's always a moment where you make a tweet or you say something and you just don't feel good afterwards, and then you feel like, all right, it was just a bad moment. It was a bad moment. I've had plenty of my own bad moments. Everyone, if you're a content creator online, will have bad moments. It's how you recover after the bad moment, which is what matters. And based on the conversation we had last night, he was just like, look, I still hate the valuation. I don't agree with it, but probably shouldn't have tweeted the way he tweeted. And again, to Chris's defense, this is how he thinks about it, and this is what he'll talk about next week. His dad lost a lot of money in the dot-com bubble. And when I mean a lot of money, I mean a lot of money. Like, the family that immigrated from India came to America and was like legit in poverty because of his dad losing his money in the dot-com bubble. So when he sees valuation like a Palantir, he gets very nervous. Now, he also has recognized he can't be the savior, right? He can't save everyone from what he thinks could happen. But that sort of past experience that he dealt with is kind of what caused them to get that aggressive. But yeah, he agreed it was a bad moment. So he'll be on next week, and we will talk to him then. And we'll also get his thoughts on VG, which again, this is a name that him and Matt have been pretty bullish on all year. VG right here, 1376. That's up 14 or 13. Yeah, about 13.5% in the pre-markets. UNH as well. This is the thing that all the super investors are buying. We are going to see very soon what Buffett is buying, what Howard Marks is buying. UNH right here is up 1.69%. Again, all the 13Gs and 13Fs should be coming out very, very soon. We got two just now. Here we go, folks. We got two just now. Let's see. By Friday, we should be getting all of them. We got Monish Prabhai, who doesn't make that many investments, but let's see. That one came out this morning. He bought AutoNation. He manages $270 million. He added to HCC, he added to Valaris, and he added to Alpha Metallurgical Resources. He bought AutoNation. I don't know what the heck AutoNation is. Ticker symbol AN, that's up 5%, $7 billion company. Okay, there you go. Monish Prabhai. This is one of the, basically Munger has been one of his mentors for those that don't know him. He hasn't really outperformed the market in the past 10 years. So, but he, people still know about his brand. But that's the 13F that he disclosed. And then you have Samantha McLaurin. She manages 2.2 billion. Let's see what she did. Again, I don't know all these people, but if they manage a ton of money, they are people that are making some big decisions in the broader equity market. She sold off some of her Amazon by 2%, added a little bit of Google, sold off 1% of her Meta, added 1% to NVIDIA, added 31% to the cruise lines, Norwegian cruise line, reduced 5% of UBS, basically kept Coinbase flat, reduced a little bit. She bought UNH, 311. She bought 191,000 shares, $59 million. Again, you're seeing these super investors buy more of their UNH. She sold off 10% of her SoFi. She reduced a little bit of her UAL. She sold off 38% of her General Motors. added 17% to Delta. She sold off a little bit of Peloton, added Tempest AI, 388,000 shares. And that seems to be the major moves. And she added a little bit of JD. Again, we don't have Druckenmiller. We don't have, what's his name? Ackman, Buffett. A lot of these guys we are missing. These are the big ones that we're waiting to see. But we are getting some of these that are popping up right now. Again, the top 10 names that have been bought so far in Q2: UNH, Google, Thermo Fisher, Taiwan Semiconductor, Meta, NVIDIA, Texas Instruments, Ferguson Enterprises, Applied Materials, and US Bancorp. So those are the top names so far that are being bought. Not seeing a lot of Palantir so far. We've got about 26 out of the 81 filings that came out. Now, Palantir in general has not really showed up on this list. I've seen one Palantir filing for about 2,000 shares. But yeah, I've not seen massive moves in Palantir. However, based on the institutional ownership on Palantir, we are at 60%, folks. I mean, take a look at this chart right here. It has started, and the short interest is decreasing, which is incredible. Robinhood short interest as well is decreasing, but this is the Palantir institutional ownership chart. As you can see, the black line right here is the stock price, and the institutional ownership has grown with it. Almost 1.4 billion shares now are held by the toots, which is not too bad. That website is Dataroma, dataroma.com. That is the website that compiles, I put in the chat, all of the filings. So you can go to that and use that website to see. All right, so we will get these 13Fs and 13Gs soon, and we're going to see what happens. Let's talk a little bit about Coreweave. It was a little bit of an ugly quarter. Although they beat on revenue, they missed on EPS. Coreweave right here down 10%. And, well, the analysts weren't that happy. I'm surprised no one's made a better Dataroma. Dude, Evan, you need to get on that. You need to make a better Dataroma because they fill their website with ads and it's impossible to click on anything. So, like, you need to make a better Dataroma. I know you got connections, and we need a better way to, like, see these filings. That would be great for the community. All right, Coreweave, here's what the analysts have to say. Wells Fargo, they are not that happy with all of the CapEx that they're spending. They raised their price target from 60 to 105, but again, they keep it at equal weight. Goldman Sachs says stay neutral. Stepping back, we view this quarter as a further validation of the themes we laid out in our initiation of the fiscal year 2025 preview, with Coreweave demonstrating sustainable demand for their infrastructure, quickly scaling capacity and steadily driving down that cost of capital. That being said, the stock is down 10% as mainly investors were looking for further upside to remaining performance obligations and more aggressive CapEx deployment. Morgan Stanley, equal weight at 91. Stifel, hold 120 from 115. DA Davidson, they still have a $36 price target on this thing. They are the most bearish. And again, they just don't see the CapEx or the revenue outpacing the CapEx, which is why they're not that excited about the nature of the business, along with the fact that the depreciation expenses is going to lead them to not be as profitable. The street wanted negative 49 cents. They came in at negative 60 cents. They're growing 200% year over year. So I think you can deal with some of the underperformance on earnings per share, but some of these firms are not happy with that. Mizuho has them at 150, and Citizens JMP doesn't have a price target, but they have them as a market perform. So that's what you have on all of the Coreweave earnings. Look, my thing on Coreweave earnings, and you have a lot of the Nebius bulls that are really excited about Nebius, because although that one is down 2% because of Coreweave, the sort of argument here is that Coreweave has 22% of their interest expenses as a percentage of revenue. Nebius has 5%, and Coreweave depreciates GPUs over a 6-year lifespan to inflate their EBITDA margins, while Nebius does so over 4 years. Nebius is also growing much faster than a Coreweave. So although it's a much smaller company than a Coreweave, you do have some people saying, hey, Coreweave is a great company. It's a great business. It's a great ecosystem play around AI and CapEx, but maybe the numbers aren't the most attractive at these valuations, which is why there's some other places that you can look to. But that's what we had on Coreweave earnings. Now, Coreweave, although it was a bad stock price, the thing did run from 103 to 150, right? So it's at 130. It is what it is. It was a good earnings, just wasn't a phenomenal earnings, and that's why the stock is selling off, especially after the big run-up. Kava just had a crappy quarter. This stock is down 22%. The average Kava location was worth 65 million. Now it is worth 19 million. So now if you go to your local Kava, you can say that this place is not worth 3x what it was worth 90 days ago. And the reason for that is because same store sales are down are up only 2.1% year over year. So there's just not a lot of momentum in the food business. And you know, it's kind of weird because you're seeing a bit of a trend now in regards to what's going on with food. Yum got hit. Chipotle got hit. Jack got hit. Sweet Green got hit. Sweet Green was down 21%. And Kava got hit. But ironically, Open Table reservations are accelerating. DoorDash orders were accelerating. They had a great earnings. And the Toast ARR, which is a POS system for restaurants, is also accelerating. So you're seeing a lot of momentum in going out and eating and like reserving tables and like kind of having not fine dining, but more so that idea of going out and going and being at a restaurant. But then you're seeing these fast food places, which Kava's not necessarily fast food, but technically you're in there to get your food fast, right? Kava, Sweet Green, Shake Shack, Wendy's, Chipotle, these companies are getting hit. And so it's almost like DoorDash is getting momentum because people don't want to go out to eat, which means they're still spending, the consumer's still spending. But then going out to eat in these fast food restaurants, you're not actually getting foot traffic, and the same store sales on Chipotle also were pretty disgusting. So it kind of shows you there is a trend of consumers either wanting to stay home and eat or just not wanting to go out and eat. And that's creating some of the weakness in the entire sector. And so that's what we got in the context of the food delivery business. Kava right there down 23% in the pre-markets. Robinhood 115.56. We will get the Robinhood metrics today after the bell. So in the market close, we will see what the Robinhood metrics look like. I think July is going to crush it. We already know from the company that crypto equities and options was an all-time high along with margin book. If they added a strong amount of users, cash sweep is good. I just think the market's going to be excited about Robinhood's Q3 July metrics. And then if August can replicate even 50% of what Q3 has done, even if September is kind of crappy then, which September tends to be crappy, we're going to have a pretty good Q3. We're going to have a pretty good Q3. And so we just have to see how that ends up playing out. Are you worried about the American consumer? Not really. Again, we looked at that Bank of America study yesterday. The American consumer and consumer expenditures in July was up 1.8%. Like the consumer's okay. I mean, like, or at least it's not horrible. And maybe there's some more data that we're not looking at. There's definitely credit card delinquencies that are not the best that we're seeing. But from retail sales and consumer expenditures, you are seeing a lot of momentum in the consumer, even if there's certain sectors of the market that are not doing the best, like the food companies. But I wouldn't say that's a completely messed up consumer. And as a result, I think we are seeing some of this momentum. Now, this was Bessent yesterday. He was live talking about a bunch of different things on Fox News, and here's what he had to say about tariffs and a couple other topics.
Tariff income, I've been saying 300 billion, but I think we're going to have to substantially revise that up. So well in excess, 1% of GDP. And then with the new investments, they're the sovereign investments that we talked about. But then in terms of the committed investment by private industry, we're well over 10 trillion. Just on the
and look, I mean, tariff revenue has skyrocketed. We collected 29.6 billion of tariff revenue in July. The economic impacts of this on the broader market is yet to be seen. We're going to find out over the coming, basically call it months, I guess. Over the next 6 months, we're going to get a much better understanding of what that looks like. But we have collected revenue. And as a result of collecting that revenue, this is what Trump is saying as a win. Now, again, the punchline here is if inflation does not go up, if earnings do go up, and jobs stay stable while we're collecting $30 billion a month, it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, you're going to start to see a lot of more momentum from economists that were predicting a lot of doom and gloom. And then, things have changed, at least on the material reality of what's going on with tariffs. But I think we're going to see over the next 6 months, we're going to have a much better understanding of how this ends up playing out. Here's another clip from Bessent continuing to speak on some of these tariffs. Let me just pull this up right here. And here we go.
I hope the Chinese will want to make substantial progress on that.
Could China do what some of these other countries do, like Japan, South Korea, and the EU? Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary Lutnick, was on the show not so long ago. He calls it buying down tariffs. So one of the buckets is this National Security and Economic Fund. That's how he put it. You may have another name for it. I don't think people know much about this. The sums are very substantial. I mean, sounds like could be a couple $1 trillion and growing. Essentially government investment here. Is this like a sovereign wealth fund? Does this go directly into the Treasury Department and Mr. Trump and the U.S. government hold 90% of the profits and you direct the resources. How's this going to play out? Do you have a sense of it yet?
Well, I think so. I think your initial question, Larry, was could China do a buyout like this?
Yep.
And my sense is no, because a lot of the buyout or the funds from the buyout are going to go to critical industries that we need to reshore. And a lot of those need to be reshored away from China.
Okay.
So, whether it's semiconductors, magnets, pharma, steel. So my sense is that isn't what will happen. We have these agreements in place where the Japanese, the Koreans, and to some extent the Europeans will invest in companies and industries that we direct them largely at the president's discretion.
And
basically Bessent saying, hey, the EU and Japan can buy down their tariffs, but China's not going to do that because China's not exactly investing in the same places that the EU and Japan would be able to invest in, obviously because China has a lot of their own manufacturing as well. But we do have the 90-day pause on tariffs. That was announced on Monday. Pound right here, 189, Robinhood 115.65. It does feel like we're going to get a deal done with China. And this 90 days is just a holder to continue negotiations to get there. Rock Lab in the pre-markets, that's up 1.4%. Eli Lilly, the CEO, bought $1 million worth of stock yesterday. That one is green by 1.65%. AMD, 180. SoFi, 24.18. Grabby Grab, 503. Let's see if the market makers let her breathe above $5, but it is above 5 in the pre-markets. Reddit right here, 226. Meta, 791. It looks like she wants 800. Bitcoin, 120.6. The poll I put in the chat, 83% of you say Green Day on the S&P. Again, the S&P is hitting all-time highs right here again in the pre-markets. It hit all-time highs yesterday. It would be very exciting to see that momentum. Speaking of all-time highs, Eric Trump yesterday posted Ethereum at all-time highs using Robinhood, which is cool. It's very cool to see Eric Trump use Hoodie to bull post Ethereum. So, I mean, you're just getting a lot of momentum across the board, especially on these asset classes that are continuing to see the upside. 4,700 on Ethereum. We are $100 away from 4,800. And I think today we're going to see if we can break that $4,800 level on Ethereum. And that would be all-time highs for the first time since 2021, which would be very, very exciting for Ethereum. All right, folks, here we go. 20 seconds until the market opens. Let me know if you had your coffee. I did not. I am running off the natural energy of this bull market, this green, but also all of you guys that show up every single morning. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is 9:30 a.m. Wednesday, August 13th. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 644.74. That is officially an all-time high on the S&P 500. Officially an all-time high on the S&P 500 today, 644.80. Palantir, 188.60. She is very close to 189. That is a new all-time high for Palantir as well. You got 188.60. A little bit of red from the pre-markets at 189. 188.60 on Palantir is what you got. Grabby Grab, just over $5. Coreweave is down 11%. Venture Global is up 14%. Palantir, again, 188.65. Hoodie is green, 115.35. AMD getting some love, 181. That's up 4%. Not too bad. Apple participating also makes this really, really good for the broader market, starting to diversify. There you go. Apple, 231. That's very close. Well, not very close to its 52-week highs of around 250, but it's getting way closer. The stock was at 198 3 weeks ago. So very nice to see Apple getting some momentum. There you go, 231. S&P trying to get to 645, 644.72. On the S&P, Visa is green. Bitmine, 10%. Bitmine is 10%. That is green. Ethereum is also likely green. 4,700, 4,720. Again, first time since 2021. We are seeing that. SoFi opens above 24. Very nice to see. Very nice to see on SoFi. Microsoft 530. Archer, that's up 2%. Rocket Lab up 1.84%. Grab just above $5. Palantir is 188.70. Robinhood 115. Venture Global again 13.71. Salesforce 231. Block 75.36. Carvana's up 1%. Applied Digital, that's up 3.4. Google's at 204.80. which is not too bad. Big Bear AI getting some love. This thing was at $4.70. Now it's at $6, which is not horrible. Coreweave is getting wrecked, down 11%. Again, the stock was at 103 before earnings. So this one getting some momentum. Palantir very close to 190. Robinhood right here, 115.35. Palantir was at 189.90. Got super close to getting there. Let's see if we can get above there. Uber, 91.99. Grab actually getting a couple cents over 5. Not too bad. Not too bad. Tesla, that was at 342 in the pre-markets. That's at 343. That's green. That's green. 342. That is green. Okay, so my Webull is showing me Palantir did touch 190. It was very quick. It was like literally a millisecond. It's showing the 52-week high of 190. Let's see. There you go. Now I think it's really trying to get back above 190, but it looks like that wall was taken up. So we got to see if we can get back above it. Hoodie, 115. AMD, wow, 4%. 4% on AMD. Again, I don't know if this is accurate, but based on a Taiwanese bank called Fubo Research, they came out and they said, hey, NVIDIA is going to delay Rubin because they want to make it more competitive with AMD's MI450. That could be totally wrong, but that is the only headline I've seen this morning for why AMD is up 5%. NVIDIA is also trying to break all-time highs. It is 20 cents away. Actually, it hit 184 yesterday, but it literally hit it for a second at the close. So it technically did hit 184, but it was like almost exactly at 4 p.m. and then it came right back down. So we got to see if we can get back above 184, which would be exciting. Not too bad. Tempest, that stock is up 6%. That's getting some momentum. Lemonade, 52-week highs as well. That's green, 58.74. That's up 7.4%. Wow. S&P, 645. 645, 2 days in a row. You're seeing a decent amount of momentum. This thing was 619 on August 1st. 619 on August 1st. BMNR 69. That is very close to breaking 70. That's up 10.5% on the day. Palantir, again, 15 cents away from really cracking 190. Very close. And then Robinhood trying to crack 116 as well right now. Ethereum, 4460. Ethereum or a BlackRock ETF, 4460. The actual asset, 4700. Wow, Tessie, 346 too. And Kava's getting a bit of a pump. This thing was down at 63. You're at 69. Still down 17%. But at least it's not down as bad as it was before. Soundtown, which has been up 40% over the past couple of weeks, or literally past couple of days, that's up another 3%. This thing has basically gone from 9 to 16, which has been incredible. Anything with GameStop? Is GameStop moving? No, dude, GameStop is not the preferred meme stock anymore. The preferred meme stock is Opendoor, which, by the way, Anthony Pompliano has bought in, and he publicly asked the CEO of Opendoor, Carrie Wheeler, to do a podcast, and she said yes. So I don't know. We're going to see. Maybe Opendoor embraces their retail following, but you got someone who does have a rather large following buying into the name, and now the CEO is doing a podcast with them. We're going to see how the market interprets it. NVIDIA right here, going green, trying to get above 184. Palantir just stuck below 190. Very close, but trying to get above that as well. And then Robinhood, 115.60. Google right here, 204. SoFi, 24.29. Let me check SoFi resistance on 25. HIMS, though, is down. HIMS is down. The company came out with a statement yesterday saying that Andrew Dudum sold for philanthropic reasons. So they tried to kind of deal with the insider selling stuff that people were concerned about. ASTS as well is down by 1.85%, but HIMS is also down. Rocket Lab right here, 1.4. Where's Novo? Novo is up 1.3%. 1.3%. That is mean. Why is Dell down? I have no idea why Dell is down. That one was up a little bit yesterday, though. That's down 1.2%. SMCI yesterday was up 3%. SMCI is also down 0.3%. So the server company is getting hit a little bit. The bullish IPO happens at 12 p.m. It's not happening now. It happens at 12 p.m. So we're going to see that later throughout the day. SBET, where is that one? Again, they diluted a couple of days ago. SBET right here is up 7%, so that one's doing okay. Tom Lee has filed for dilution with BitMine, but they haven't actually done the dilution yet. 68.50, that's up 10%. TSSI, this one actually diluted. So again, this is a small caps. Small caps, they ran up like crazy. When you run up like crazy and you're a small cap, you raise money. They ended up diluting yesterday, which is why they're down 2%. Also, Circle did an offering yesterday, but Street didn't care that much. I mean, they cared after hours yesterday. Well, now the stock's down 4%. It was down 10%, so it's recovered a little bit. But Circle as well did an offering yesterday, and that's why that stock is down 4%. Okay, so there you go. That's what we have there. Opendoor 257, SoundHound, that's up 3%. Lemonade up 7%. NVIDIA really close to breaking those all-time highs. It's trying to get there. And then AMD is still up 5% today. Apple as well, 232. Let me check SoFi 25. Bitcoin at 120. You're seeing that momentum. Not a lot of macro news this morning. Again, CPI was the main thing. Trump is going to Alaska in 48 hours to negotiate with Putin. Zelensky and the Ukraine government came out this morning, the Ukrainian government, and they basically said, hey, we're not accepting any deal that requires us to give up the eastern part of the region. So I don't know how they're going to get a deal done, but we're going to see what Trump can do on Friday. 25 resistance on SoFi is 302,000 shares. 302,000 shares. PKSY, this is the Paramount merger company. It's not on Webull yet. It might be on some other exchanges. I think Paramount is still there, though. Paramount, again, they got the UFC deals. Yeah, Paramount, it's suspended. They got the $7.7 billion UFC deal, which is worth more than the entire company. But that is going to be the new ticker symbol, PKSY, for the Paramount Skydance merger, as that one so far has stayed in the S&P 500. Do you think BM&R dilution will give us a dip? I mean, yes, because that's what's supposed to happen. That's what happens when MicroStrategy dilutes all the time. However, there might be so many people excited about BitMine. Let's say there is a dip of like 10%. I mean, what if that dip gets eaten up because everyone's ready to buy it? And like, that's the beauty of these treasury companies. They create such a following where the dilution creates a buying opportunity, and people know and they believe, most importantly, the underlying asset, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, are going to go higher. And so they're ready to buy on every dip. So do I think it creates a dip? Yes. Do I think that dip lasts for a long time? I don't know. But you do have BitMine right here. That's up 8.7%. And eventually they will dilute, right? They're going to have to buy more Ethereum. We're just not sure exactly when that's going to happen. Is Grab making a move or is Grab tanking? Grab lost everything. It was at 508. Now it's at 501. I can't prove it, but I really do think the market makers are keeping this one pinned down, and they're not going to let it run until they're ready to let it run. And that means it's not going to make a move until they let it make a move. But having said that, I bought more yesterday. I'm accumulating shares. And so my conviction on the company is pretty headstrong. Question is just a matter of timing, and no one can predict that, but I will be taking up shares at these levels because I just don't think that this valuation is appropriate given the earnings we saw in Q2. But it is what it is. It's not going to be moving as much as some of these other AI names that are getting a lot more volatility and momentum. Tesla right here, 345. That's green. Apple, 230. Palantir getting hit below 189 now. Robinhood, 115. And then AMD, 183.50. That is green as well. Druva, thanks for the super chat. I would expect dilution at 75 or 100. Yeah, I mean, it's better for shareholders when they dilute at a higher price. So we're going to have to see when they end up doing it. But I mean, the momentum's there, dude. And the excitement is there. BitMine shares traded today, 14 million. It's been 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to see how that's playing out. And again, you don't know when they're going to do it. So for those asking, when is the dilution? If everyone knew, right, everyone would be able to trade it easily, but no one knows. It's going to be whenever they decide is the appropriate time to do it. NVIDIA trying to break through 50 cents away. S&P going well above 645. She's going for 646 now. I mean, Tom Lee said this week is the breakaway week for 650. Maybe it happens. Maybe we see it. And you're starting to see a lot of the Max 7 cooperate as well, including Apple. Where's Google? Are we holding 200? We are holding 204 on the Googs. Microsoft also all-time high, or not all-time highs, but very close to it. And then Meta trying to break 800, did hit 795 in the pre-markets. Oscar is getting some love as well. Yeah, Oscar did have a move over the past couple of days. It was almost at 16 yesterday. Now it's at 14.98. So kind of going flat right here. UNH as well. Is that going green? That is going green, 1.79%. I mean, this is the number one stock that super investors are buying. So we're going to have to see how the market thinks of UNH over the coming months. But that one is green. And so again, you're seeing a lot of cooperation in a lot of different angles. Bank of America, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Trump said the CEO should go back to being a DJ yesterday. And that stock was up 3%. It's up another 0.5% right now. It's quite incredible. The market is willing to diversify into other assets. And again, there's still $7 trillion on the sideline. 75 billion was added to money market funds last week. And I think eventually that money knows that if rates come down, there needs to be a little bit more risk on. But you could also see people taking some profits here. You know, maybe people are afraid of September. I know we said August was going to be scary. August so far has turned out to not be that bad. We still have another couple weeks left of it, about 2.5 weeks. And September actually does, on average, every single month. Like August, there are some months where you get positive. September, you actually do get, like, even if it's negative 0.1%, you do get a negative month historically. If we can buck that trend for August and September based on the anomaly that we had back in April of a 30% drawdown, it could set a new precedent for how we think of bull markets after you have that big of a drawdown. AMD as well, 5% on the day. Is this where it was before the earnings? Yeah, this is literally where it was before the. This is a new 52-week high, folks. Before the earnings, it was at 181. Wow. Before the earnings, it was at 181. We are better than the earnings, and the earnings, based on that 14% data center growth, wasn't even that amazing, right? The street didn't love it that much. No one cares. AMD is green. AMD is green. I mean, you are seeing a lot of momentum right there, and NVIDIA is not really moving with AMD right here, but NVIDIA is trying to break all-time highs. So I think the Coreweave earnings, the Nebius earnings, the Arista earnings, the ALAB earnings. Arista, by the way, that stock flat, and ALAB, that stock up 3%. All of those earnings, along with the rest of the semiconductors, just proved how important the AI trade is going to be. And NVIDIA and AMD seem to be leading that trade, which is why they are getting their momentum. Palantir, are we trying to get back to 190? Palantir, 188.78. All right, so still $1 below. I'm trying to break above that 190. Google right here, 204. Microsoft, 529. UNH, 266. NVIDIA, 183. And AMD, now 184. ASTS, is that one moving? ASTS is down 2. Again, they had a bad earnings on a numbers perspective. They missed by 80% on EPS and revenue. Street didn't care. Stock was up almost 20% yesterday. Now it's taking a little bit of a breather, but this stock is up a lot for the year. So I don't think any ASTS shareholder is that upset with those earnings. Coinbase, that should be really green today. Coinbase is, yes, there you go, 6% on Coinbase. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how Coinbase is not getting a lot of volumes right now based on Ethereum hitting all-time highs. And so I think we are seeing some momentum. Let's see if we have any other headlines crossing the table. And if we've got anything right here, Tom Lee just tweeted, ETH is arguably the most important macro trade for the next 10 to 15 years as AI creates a token economy on the blockchain and as Wall Street financializes on the blockchain. So again, tokenization, that is his argument for why Ethereum is so exciting. Amazon headline announces major grocery expansion. Tens of millions of Prime members can now shop perishable groceries alongside the rest of Amazon same-day selection with fast and free delivery. Amazon to expand grocery delivery to 2,300 locations by year end. Amazon stock, which got hit after earnings, that is up 1%. 224. 224. Coin is moving, but HOOD is not. Remember, HOOD was at 93 last week. So HOOD has made a pretty good move. Now, I think it can go higher. I think it can see 120. But they gave us HOOD at 93. It's at 114 in a week. Not a bad move. And Coinbase is actually down. Coinbase, like HOOD's at basically all-time highs. Coinbase was at 440. It's recovering from the drop it had back down to 298. So in terms of volatility, Coinbase has been very volatile. And Robinhood gave us a dip at 93, and now it's back to 114 right here. SBET, that one is pumping. SBET, yep, there you go, 7.3. And then BMNR, I still think is up 9%, 5%. Okay, so that one's losing a little bit of steam from 69 to 65. Tessie, is she making the move? Oh boy, Tessie's making the move. Haven't seen 350 in a couple months now. And last time we had it, it was a quick 350 and then it went away. I will check resistance. 348 resistance is 1,000 shares. All right, we already broke 348. So 349 resistance, 59,000 shares, and then 350 resistance, 238,000 shares. Jason said yesterday on Technical Tuesday to watch out for 335. Tesla needs to hold 335. And basically needs to be above its moving averages, 200-day, 50-day, and 20-day. And 335 is kind of the core number he's looking at. So if you can see Tesla above 335, he thinks there's a move to the upside. And you're seeing that today up about 1.75%. Amid good move, there she goes. Amid bad move, there you go. That's true. That's true. When she's going up, there she goes. When she's going down, oh, there you go. That is, dude. You guys have picked up on my mannerisms in such a strong way. Such a strong way. By the way, the dentist hasn't texted me yet, so I haven't been able to rizz up the dentist, as you guys have been saying. You guys are like, actually, bro, the comment yesterday, I was listening back to it. The comment, Steve wants a dog, Amit got a cougar, that it actually had me dead, bro. Like legit had me dead. For those that don't know the story, I had a cleaning yesterday at the dentist and she asked what I did. And I was like, oh, I talk about the stock market on YouTube. And she was super excited to like follow me, subscribe, get my number, get in contact because she wants to invest, but she just never learned about investing. And to me, that was a signal that, look, people really want to allocate money, but they just don't know what to do with allocating their money, right? Because it's hard. And this is why people join communities and follow the channel, right? Because they need some support and guidance with the entire community. And then the interpretation from you guys was I'm rizzing up the dentist, which is actually ridiculous, bro. But it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Give her some dental work. You guys are crazy, bro. She's married. Can't rizz up the dentist, bro. Oh, Bessent was live just now. Okay, hold on. We'll go to him in a second. Bessent was live in a second. We'll see. Wonder if she's watching. Maybe she is. Who knows? She has the YouTube channel now. Maybe she is. AMD, Tesla 347. AMD still holding. Wow. AMD 185. Wow. $300 billion market cap. Cracking 185 is incredible. Is incredible. And you're seeing a lot of momentum on AMD. This is the all-time high. Not an all-time high. Wait, is it an all-time high? No, I think it's an all-time high. No, 220 was, dude, this thing was 220 back in March of 2024. That was kind of wild. But 184.75 pounds right here, 188.75, and then hoodie just below 115. They're keeping hood below 115 right here. It's been kind of a couple of days of this keeping below 115, but I do think she wants to break out. And then Bitmine now back up 10%. That is green. That is green. Just because there's a goalie doesn't mean you can't score. Again, see, this is what I'm saying. This is the most unhinged chat on YouTube, bro. The most. Imagine she texts me and she's like, I saw the comments in the stream. That she'd be so confused. She was like, what? Why are they saying this? It would be hilarious. S&P 645.83. You're trying to get 646. You're trying to get 646. The bullish allocation is out. All right, let me know how many shares people got. Someone said I got 19 shares. Someone said I got 50 shares. Let me know what shares. Received 14 out of 50. Okay, Robinhood's doing a decent job actually giving out some shares. It's not just one share per person. Got 11, got 19, got 10. All right, so this just means there was less demand than Figma, which is good. S&P 5 cents away from 646. My goodness, she's running. And it looks like this bullish IPO, we are getting a lot of people to get them. I got 11 out of 17. I got 34 out of 250. I got 44 on SoFi. I got 49. I got 250 shares. I got 25 shares. Okay, not horrible. Not horrible. It's nice to see. It's better than just, one share here and there for everybody. It's nice that people are actually getting a decent position, even if it's like 20 shares. There you go. S&P 646. S&P all-time highs 646, baby. We are green. We are green. We're at all-time highs. Hoodie trying to get back there. Bitmine 9.3, and then Ethereum really trying to crack 4,800. 47. You're about $100 away. You're about $100 away. This feels like a full-blown melt-up. Yeah, I mean, it feels like a melt-up, but it also feels like a melt-up. And for those that are unfamiliar with the melt-up term, that's essentially everything's moving up. And it's kind of characterized with so much money coming into the system that there's nowhere to go but up, right? There's only a set amount of shares. There's a lot of money chasing it, aka price goes up. But it feels like a melt-up that's based on fundamentals. It feels like a melt-up that's based on fundamentals. And melt-ups tend to have a bit of a local top, right? That tends to happen because people eventually take profits. And I think that could happen here. But that also happened at the end of July, early August, and then people bought that dip. That's the most exciting thing about this market. S&P now breaking over 646. If there is a dip, people want to buy. And it's not easy to have that type of market where people are so excited to buy. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin 121. Wow, she's moving too. She's not slowing down either. Bitcoin giving some momentum. 121.4 on Bitcoin. Coreweave again, not the best. I mean, it was a good earnings. It just wasn't phenomenal given it ran into the print, which is why you're seeing the 13% move. But I don't think there's any fundamental reason for why Coreweave investors should be upset. It went from 103 to 150 before earnings. Now it's at 130. They missed on EPS. It's understandable why it's down. I don't think it's like a thesis breaker or anything. It only legitimized. They have 30 billion in backlog, bro, all for GPU sales. I mean, it's just, and they're a reseller of NVIDIA's GPUs. So the demand, the fact that a secondary GPU reseller could go public and get a $60 billion valuation in this market just proves how big the overall AI CapEx trade is, which is why we're seeing this momentum. Yeah, I agree with what Doug's saying right here. Earnings is the core reason for why we're seeing a lot of this momentum as well. I mean, at the end of the day, if the market's putting up earnings, you can't deny. You can choose not to pay the multiple that the market's paying for the earnings, but you can't say the market's not putting up earnings. And in 2021, the market wasn't putting up earnings. Where's Duolingo? This thing has been taken to the gutter. 320. Oh boy, let's pull up the stock draft. Let's see how bad this one is ruining my freaking ETF. Well, I mean, AMD is helping me today because I do have AMD. So I'm up 17%. Matt's up 20. Tanner's up 9. Steve is up 1.5. Chris is now down 0.5%. If I didn't have Duolingo, I would be number 1. But this freaking thing is just wrecked it. So we're number 2 with Duolingo. Visa's close to break even. I don't even need this thing to go back to break even on Duolingo. I would just like it to not be down 30%. Matt right here is up 20%. But it's just been an ugly year for this company, even though the earnings growth has been phenomenal, in my opinion. I don't know. I guess it's an AI narrative. It's an AI narrative that's hurting it. Farzad, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Every $10 super chat for a moving fund now amid the GOAT. Farzad, thank you for being here. Farzad was on the channel in the market close. He called in, and we got to hear his thoughts on the MKBHD drama with Tesla. I still haven't watched the full video yet. I got to watch his full review. But let's just say Marquez was not the biggest fan of Robotaxi. Elon, did he just tweet something right now? Elon has been tweeting a lot more. Oh, we got to give you an update on the Elon Sam Altman drama because yesterday was hilarious, bro. The way they went back and forth was absolutely hilarious. Elon, what did he say? Elon right here. Okay, let me pull this up. Elon did say Starlink is expanding yesterday to a new country. I think it's Kazakhstan that now has Starlink. So that is also getting some excitement for SpaceX as well. Circle, yes, recovered. S&P above 646. Circle right here, 163. That goes green even after the offering. The spat between Sam Altman and Elon, what was so funny about it is because basically Elon was saying you're full of shit, and Sam Altman was like, hey, don't you manipulate the X algorithm? You're accusing me of working with Apple to manipulate the App Store rankings for OpenAI, but you manipulate the X algo. And then ChatGPT quote tweeted Grok because they asked Grok, is Elon right? And Grok was like, no, Elon's wrong. Sam Altman is right. And so ChatGPT said good bot, which is wild, bro. That's like saying good boy. You know, that's crazy. And then Elon went to ChatGPT Pro, the thing you have to pay $200 a month for. And he said, hey, who is more trustworthy, Sam Altman or Elon? You can only pick one and output only their name. And ChatGPT, which is Sam Altman's company, says Elon Musk. So literally them just going back and forth with each other is wild. And it is billionaire tech bro drama that we are seeing unfold. The thing is, these billionaire tech bros have literally tens of billions of dollars to spend on GPUs, which is why it's so exciting as the AI wars heat up. But they are going back and forth. Bitcoin 122. Wow, we are 1,000 away, folks. Are very close. 121.7 got rejected at 122. 123 is all-time highs. So we are very close to all-time highs. Dougie, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate it, brother. Matching the moving fund. Thank you, sir, for the $10 super chat. I will see Dougie in Miami. So very excited for the meetup. I was on the phone with Derek this morning. I do believe Derek will be coming to the meetup. So I think you guys are going to get a chance to meet him. It'll be fun. Speaking of Derek, again, he is someone who got me into this startup a year ago. And this startup just put out a video yesterday. And although it's not the fastest laundry folder, it is a laundry folder. It's pretty cool to see this thing folding laundry. This is the future. Again, it's not the fastest. It's made mistakes. I like that they left the mistakes in the video so we can see that, you know, the robot's not perfect yet. But yeah, dude, this is going to be one of the craziest decades for innovation. And these robots are not going anywhere. They are only, this is the worst it's ever going to be at folding laundry. So it's going to be exciting to see how this plays out. Bitcoin back to 122. Bitcoin back to 122. Robinhood is going down right here. So a little weird with the price action. Robinhood down 2% as Bitcoin and Ethereum are hitting new all-time highs. I mean, to me, that's probably someone taking some big profits right here, or it's just algos. It's one or the other. But that, you know, usually that price action is not exactly correlated, but you are seeing a 2% move down on Hoodie. Now, again, Hoodie, you know, hit all-time highs. It's green. Although I want it to go to 120 and I think it deserves it, I also don't want to be super greedy about it. You know, holding above 110, holding above 105 to me is really good. On those earnings, I think it deserves more, but it's up a lot this year. And so I'm not going to say that it needs to be at a certain level. However, you have the algos going the opposite direction as Bitcoin and Ethereum going up. Hood right here, getting sold off a little bit. ASTS, that's down 4. Coinbase is up 5. Again, Coinbase is down a lot from its highs last month. So Coinbase kind of just getting back to recovering, but Coinbase was at 440. Now it's at 335. NVIDIA 182. That goes red. So NVIDIA goes red. Meta goes red. Google goes red. S&P, are we down? S&P is down from the high of days. So you are getting some red candles across the board. Palantir as well. It was almost at 190. It touched 190 for a second. That one, 187. That one's also down. People are rotating out of Hood to BMNR. Maybe. I mean, I think in general, it's, you know, people also probably are taking some profits. And I don't think that's crazy. BMNR right here down a little bit as well. I don't think it's crazy for people to take profits. Am I taking profits? No, I don't. I think Hood's going higher by the end of the year. But could I understand people that got in at 100, 105 and they're taking some profits right here? Yeah. Seeing some signs of weakness, saying Ethereum and Bitcoin are getting too aggressive, take some profit. Like, I think that's not crazy. And I also, you know, is it healthy? I think it is. Some consolidation is healthy. Obviously, it's nice to see a move every day to the upside, but I don't think it's crazy to see these things consolidate. And for me, I would just be happy if August, you know, can hold these levels versus see a lot more downside at the end of the month. Lemonade right here is up 8%. Tempest is up 4%. And an Apple still trying to hold 232 as well. Expecting some of these moves to just keep moving every day is wild. 100%. 100%. And, you know, that to me is more of a top indicator than anything. When people get mad that Palantir is not going up 3% every day or something, you know, like if Palantir goes back to 175 and people are crying about it, I just have no sympathy. I have zero sympathy. I'm sorry. Like, it's like, we know it's expensive. We know it's gotten a lot of momentum and stocks can take a breather. It is okay. In fact, it's healthy. Like, it is what it is. Same thing with Hoodie. Same thing with a lot of these names. So I think that's okay. It's not something you have to expect, but it's also not something you have to be afraid of if it does play out. If anything, again, if it gets pretty aggressive on the dip, it becomes a buying opportunity because at the end of the day, it seems like this market does want to go higher. Okay, folks, I just got a notification from Ray Moore and Flanagan. My scheduled delivery time is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the apartment. So that means I will not be doing a market open tomorrow. I wished it was from like 1 to 4, but unfortunately it's from 10 to 1 and there's no way I can change that. So I'm saying that right now, there will not be a market open tomorrow. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll be able to do a little bit of a close from the apartment. I'll just like be in a corner and see if I can use my hotspot, but there will not be market. Come on, man, on my day off. I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm taking a day off since April, bro. This is the first market open I've taken off since April. And the last time I took it off in April, it's because I was sick and I like legit couldn't talk. I'd kind of lost my voice and was like sneezing and all this stuff. Robinhood now 110. They are dumping her today. Coinbase 338. Amazon 223. At least Coinbase is getting some love. NVIDIA, they're also dumping her. All right, we're getting our little 10 a.m. dump. We're getting our 10 a.m. dump. I'm not pranking. I got the notification just now. I was really hoping for it to be 1 to 4 p.m. It's usually a 3-hour window, but instead it's 10 to 1 p.m. And given it's a lot of stuff they're delivering, you just can't delay it, especially because they use a third-party vendor to deliver all this stuff. So I am sorry, but it looks like we're not going to make the market open tomorrow. Figure it out. Dude, I really wish. Dude, I don't like missing the show. I like being here every morning. I'm excited to do this every single day. I just also really need to get this furniture in so we don't have to worry about this for the rest of the month. AMD right here, 183, Tesla 345, and then Hoodie is trying to recover a little bit, but still down. Pounter 187. All right, we got Bessent, who was live this morning on Bloomberg. Let's see what he has to say here.
Even in China.
Well, we have exclusive reporting that Beijing is now sending out letters to firms saying actually shrug off those H20 and use our domestic champions. Is this something you might discuss with your counterpart?
Oh, sure. We can discuss that, but it also tells me that they are worried about the NVIDIA chips becoming the standard in China. Look, NVIDIA is an incredible product. A lot of the technology in China is, they're piggybacking, and I'll use piggybacking as a kind word for acquiring our technology.
Do you mean stealing?
Your words. And yes, that's what I mean. And the NVIDIA, Jensen Huang just stays years ahead of them.
Criticism came from the Wall Street Journal editorial board, though, about this new unique policy. They say it's a step toward government control of private business. Are you concerned? Some of these policies are starting to look like the country you're actually trying to de-risk from. Central planning, basically, out of the oval.
No, not at all. Because where we got was with this unfettered trade, we did not have secure trade or fair trade, and so now we are trying to make it secure. So you don't want to. We're not sending out the highest level chips, and we don't want to sell everything to everybody. So there is a need for intervention, and the Wall Street Journal just let her rip. Kind of bunch of grumpy old men over there. I was with them yesterday.
This is going to raise some revenue. What do you plan to do with it?
Pay down the debt.
It's all going to go to pay down the debt, because we have heard some stories about the money going back to consumers, going back to citizens of the United States taxpayers.
Well, President Trump's talked about that, and look, the bottom 50% of wage earners in the one big beautiful bill are getting a lot of money back. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Auto loans are going to be tax deductible. So I think if we could make a substantial dent in the debt repayment, then we could talk about a program like that.
All right, we'll go back to Bessent in a bit. We are getting some red candles. I don't see the headline, so I'm considering this is algos, but red across the board. S&P is still holding on to its green. You do have Ethereum that is now below 47. Bitcoin just below 122. I don't see anything across the board that's an aggressive headline that would cause this. Hoodie, this to me feels either there's an insider that's dumping, there's an institution that's dumping, or there's an algo that's like toying with it, even though Bitcoin's going up. So it's one of the three. Wouldn't be surprised if it's an insider that's taking some profits right here. It is what it is, but could also be an institutional that's dumping it, or just algos. AMD right here is still holding on to its all-time highs, though. AMD not letting up. So in the midst of some of the red, AMD is holding up. Coreweave getting hit 12%. Where's Big Bear AI? This thing is down another 4%, 571, below $6. And Kava trying to recover, but that one's still red. That one is still red, down 17%. UNH, so some people might be piling into UNH. Again, the UNH thesis on growth stocks versus value stocks is that if growth stocks do start to get a little bit of a scare, you might have people pile into UNH, which is obviously undervalued, and people might be excited to diversify away from growth stocks. But I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think both can do well because UNH is so undervalued. But if you do have a realistic sell-off on the NASDAQ, like 5 to 10%, I think some of these value plays like a UNH will get some momentum. Now, granted, what's the catalyst for a 5% drop on the NASDAQ? I don't necessarily see one. Obviously, it could just be people taking profits, but NASDAQ right here slightly higher on the day. And you're seeing a little bit of a sell-off on some of these growth names. ANTF, the Peter Thiel new Ethereum treasury, that's up 50% after being up 200% yesterday. So that one continuing with its momentum and staying green. PayPal as well. Is that a value rotation? Maybe that's a value rotation. That's up 2.38. That's up 2.38 as you're seeing potentially some people pile into that one. So there you go. Pulse, thank you for the $20 super chat. Good luck with the move to the apartment. Thanks for all you do. May God bless you. Let's get to 100K subs. Thanks for the info on ATNF. Pulse, thank you for the super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciated. And thank you so much for being part of the community. Sal, thanks for all the gains on hoods and daily entertainment. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here. And sorry for missing the show tomorrow and you missing your daily source of entertainment. But appreciate the super chat. Maritza, thanks for the $20. Moving fund and stop teasing him. I would have been like that dentist a year ago because doctors really don't know about investing. I'm glad I know what I do. Amid is a gift. Maritza, are you a dentist as well? That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, dude. I was so eager to help her as well because I'm obviously trying to riz her up. No, I'm just kidding. Because like, look, like my mom is in the same situation, right? My mom works a regular job and she didn't know about investing. So when I see an older woman like that who doesn't know about investing, but is so eager to invest, and she's so excited to the point where she wants to like follow my YouTube channel because she's been thinking about it for so long, but doesn't, actually know what to do or how to start. I just think that education is life-changing. I mean, all of us have had our life changed because of the stock market. So to me, the more people in the game, the better. And obviously it's better for people's own financial lives. All right. Thanks for the $20 super chat. Congrats on the new digs. A day off is well-deserved. We will survive. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here as well. You totally sound like you are trying to riz. Yes, exactly. Dude, someone was like, did you tell her your Palantir share account? I was like, did you tell her you have Palantir or Hood? I was like, no, we didn't get that far. We didn't get that far into the rizzing of the conversation. It was a good cleaning though, dude. My teeth felt great. It was a good cleaning. She got all up in the teeth, It's like you gotta do what you gotta do. Most people, they do what? They do like 2 cleanings a year. This was my second one. I did one back in May. So I think I'm done for the year. But I think that's when most people end up getting done. AMD right here, 185, Tesla 345, Hoodie still dumping. And then Coinbase 335. That one again, or wow, dude, Coinbase 335, Tesla was pushing 350. Now Tesla back to 345 as well. So you're seeing a lot of these just get red candles back to the downside. 2 cleanings is what insurance usually covers. Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. It sounds like Amit just got health insurance. No, ironically, I have UNH, bro. I have UNH. Now, I probably need to get a better version of health insurance because I got UNH a year ago. And let's just say I didn't pick the best plan of UNH. So my premiums every month, I should be paying more because the amount I'm paying, I probably don't have the best coverage. And so I need to look into that to increase the coverage. But for dental, I have something called Carrington. And if you're employed, you probably have your own dental insurance. But because I'm self-employed, Carrington is a really good discount dental insurance plan for those that are self-employed. And root canals, cavities, cleanings, everything's like 50% off. And most dentists accept Carrington because it's a big provider for a lot of people. So that's the one that I use. How did you choose your health insurance? Bro, like after I was 26 and I got off my parents' health insurance, I was like, I need some health insurance. I Googled health insurance. I saw UNH. I was like, all right, UNH. They are a really big company. They were the 15th largest company in the world before the drop-off. A lot of people are with UNH. Like, I don't even know that many other, I know a couple of them out there. I think my mom had Aetna and Blue Horizon, but UNH is a big one. UNH is a big one. U.S. adult drinking hits record low, Gallup finds. Adult drinking, record low. What can we interpret from that? What do you guys think? Yeah, look at that. Alcohol, record low. they specifically said Republicans as well. Republicans are abstaining from alcohol at record levels as the nationwide drinking rate of Americans plummets to a 90-year low. Okay, what's the economic interpretation of this? Everyone's smoking weed now? Okay, maybe. I mean, look, I don't drink a lot either, dude. I mean, like, if I'm going out with some friends, I might drink, but I'm not at home alone, like, taking shots or anything. So, I mean, like, maybe drinking's not that cool to Gen Z. Wow, Hoodie, why are they dumping this? 5%. Hoodie's going to make me drink tonight. Goodness gracious, bro. That feels like an institutional seller, bro. That does either it's algo. This makes no sense for Hoodie to be down that much. Absolutely no sense. I could understand 110, but taking it below 110, like down 5%, really? And we're going to get the freaking results today, the Q3 results. Or not the Q3, the July metrics. I think don't be surprised if you get a big insider sale today. I think that's what's happening. It's hard to see a 5% down move with crypto and the S&P at all-time highs. That's got to be something different. That's got to be something different. So we'll see after the bell what's going on there. More people are health conscious. More people are religious. I mean, you know, religion is making a bit of a comeback. I think a couple of years ago, people didn't care that much about religion, but it's starting to, I think, pick up some more momentum just in terms of people wanting a moral framework to live by. More people are just obsessed with coffee. I don't know. That's what 90-year low on the drinking rate in the United States. That's an incredible statistic, dude. And Republicans are at the head of, at least what that Gallup poll found, not drinking. Amazon 223 and then Coinbase 334. Are we buying the hood dip, folks? Are we buying this hood dip down 5%? Are we buying it? I want to buy it. I also think it could keep dipping, but it doesn't really make sense with the broader macro activity unless we're getting a short-term local top in August. Is today the local top? Is that what we're seeing? Yeah, it's not really a dip too. You're right. I mean, I would say 7 to 8% is a real dip. 5% is a little pullback. Bull market, less drinking. You know, that's a fair point, dude. Like, if you're not losing money, you might not feel like, you know, you need to drink. Whereas if you're making money, you want to get your health in order. Like, you just want to get, you want to cross all your I's and dot all your T's. And did I just say that, bro? Oh my goodness. Can we just forget I said that? Did I just say cross all your I's and dot all your T's? You need to dot all your I's and cross all your T's if you're trying to, you know, get your life in order. And maybe that's why people are not drinking them. But did I really just, dude, am I drunk right now? Did I say dot all your T's, bro? What is the name for what I'm diagnosed with? Like, because I think spoonerism or dyslexia is not enough. Bitcoin above 122. There's got to be a name for what I'm diagnosed with. There's got to be something there that we haven't diagnosed yet. Maybe AI can figure it out. Like, what is the name for it? AMD trying to break 186. Let me check resistance on AMD. Let's see. Amidism? Yeah, I guess so. 186, 67,000 shares. That's not a lot. So it seems like there is some momentum there. All right, let's get a little bit of coverage on the market and some of these macro reports we're getting, and then we'll keep going from there.
For sales, they saw flat traffic, but they're not blaming it on inflation and a weak consumer. Listen to what the CEO is saying about it.
We haven't seen inflationary pressures to date. Got to give a shout out to our supply chain team. They've been incredibly agile, really mitigating any cost pressures to pass through to our guests. Remains to be seen what's going to happen at the end of the year, but no pressure on the labor front either.
Sounds like they had a bigger problem with steak comps from last year than they did with inflation and weakness in the consumer. And no weakness in the consumer for Brinker. I mean, this restaurant chain continues to outperform. This is the owner of Chili's. I mean, how about what the CEO is saying here? We are confident in our ability to grow sales and traffic throughout fiscal 2026. Chili's is officially back, baby, back. Did you know that about
I didn't know they
Chili's?
were gone.
No. They had a little bit of a comeback. And then just buried, in the news flow, we got small business optimism this week. And guess what? I mean, this is a survey of almost
AMD 186 all-time highs or 52-week highs on AMD.
1,000 small businesses. You can see the look recently. There's the spike up on the election. Small businesses were excited. And then we saw this big plunge in confidence because of the tariffs. It's on the mend. It is coming back. It is at a 5-month high. And all I'm saying is that if you're looking at some of these signals, soft data, commentary, anecdotes, I mean, there's no big alarm bells when it comes to the economy, I would say, or inflation in some of these
It's
reports.
interesting. We always mention some of the political bias of NFIB.
Sure.
The percentage of respondents, though, who said that weak sales were their number one problem did jump to 11. That's the highest in about 4 years.
Yes, but you know what? It tied with the percentage of those that said inflation is their number one problem. And to me, here's the chart. The number one problem of inflation, only 11% said that. This number was like almost 40% back in 2022. 11% say inflation is the top issue, same as those
Weak
saying sales
yes.
are the top issue. The translation to me is actually, and David Rosenberg wrote about this as well in his note, this is fuel for the doves on the FOMC who say, look, we don't have to worry about inflation as our number one concern right now. There are signs of weakening demand. Inflation is not the problem. And just to emphasize that point further, they go really granular into this index and this survey, and they ask those looking to raise prices, businesses looking to guess what? That one fell. Those looking to raise compensation, that number fell. I mean, these are still elevated levels, but the fact that the trend is coming down on intentions to raise prices signals that, maybe inflation isn't flaring.
That is bullish, dude. That is very bullish. If the small business index survey, which I didn't even know came out this morning, but seems like it came out about an hour and a half ago, is signaling, AMD right here trying to break 187, is signaling that small businesses are not really looking to increase prices, even though prices are already elevated from where they were a year ago, that the tariffs might not have that much of an inflationary impact. And as she said, it's really good news for the doves because that means demand, if inflation is not the concern, is the issue. Because if inflation stays stable, but demand goes down, that means it's not people aren't coming to buy a hamburger because the hamburger is more expensive. It's people potentially are losing their jobs and they don't want to have the disposable income to buy a hamburger. And that is a labor market problem. That is a rate cut problem. That is not an inflation or tariff problem, which means cuts. And Bessent did say yesterday we should be getting 50 to 75 bips of cuts this year. I don't know if we're going to be that. I think we'll get 50 bips, but he said we should get 50 bips in September. I don't know if we're going to get that in September, but it looks like we're going to get some cuts. Grab, by the way, back to 507. So that's up 1.6%. Grab getting a little bit of momentum right here as the market's trying to recover. Hoodie back to 109, 110. 108.14 seemed like the bottom today. So far, 108.14. You got people coming in to buy that dip. Look, that's really bullish. That's really freaking bullish. If small businesses are not going to increase their prices and demand is the concern, not inflation, that means rate cuts are on the way. And we've had a bull market, but if we see rate cuts, I don't know what equity prices can do. I think they go higher, though. I think they go higher. There's just not going to be a lot of places to get a yield on your capital other than equities. And equities that are actually putting up earnings. I mean, you could see the inflow of that being pretty gigantic. And obviously that would be good for all the banks and financials that are holding on to losses on their loan portfolio. And then good for growth stocks, good for small caps, just good for the overall cost of capital in the economic environment. So that is not the worst thing in the world. All right, so that NVIDIA AMD headline seems like it's making the news now. Originally, that was from a bank from Taiwan. It looks like Bloomberg is also reporting NVIDIA is said to be pushing back the launch of its next-gen Rubin AI chips, aiming to fine-tune specs and performance to directly challenge AMD's upcoming MI450. That is why NVIDIA is red and AMD is hitting 52-week highs. Kind of a narrative flip. If this is true, it's not been confirmed yet, but if this is true that NVIDIA's trying to compete with AMD, or not compete, but at least like make sure they're up to par and there's no meaningful difference between their chips, that could be very exciting between the two. And obviously very exciting for the overall semiconductor trade. Yeah, a lot of you guys got allocation for bullish. Again, that IPO happens in about 2 hours, so you'll see those shares trading. But it seems like Robinhood gave out a decent amount of shares here, which is nice to see. Coreweave right here, still down 13%. Ethereum 4,600. SBET up 5.2. Amazon 223. And BMNR, that one is still up 7%. Robinhood, some of the option flow. August 22nd, 111 call, got 2.4 million in premium. 2.4 million in premium. You might have people buying this dip. I have 10 covered calls this week for 120. So I have 10 covered calls this week for 120. Those are now up 85%. I sold them on Monday. Got an average of $2.08. They're now worth 31 cents. So those calls are green. But I thought they would be challenged more. I thought I would be struggling on Friday to deal with them. But this one's completely, made them not that hard to navigate here. I don't know. This one doesn't make sense. This to me is institutions or it's insider selling. Because, and again, people are saying, well, what if people know the July metrics are going to be bad today? That's why they're selling before. The July metrics are not going to be bad. I'm telling you right now, I am pretty damn confident the July metrics are going to be phenomenal. Now, Robinhood doesn't have to move on the July metrics because, people might just wait until earnings. Street typically doesn't care that much about their metrics. They used to when it was $18, but now they don't care that much. But still, the metrics are going to be amazing. So if the sell-off is more so an insider selling or people just taking profits, I get it. But it's not because someone knows the metrics are going to be bad, because the metrics are not going to be bad. Haven't confirmed the fact, but heard that insiders selling on Hood. And, insiders have been taking profits on Hood, way more than actually Grab and Palantir. The insiders have been selling a lot more on Hood. And I think that's okay. The stock was $8. They deserve the liquidity. And, they've done what they needed to do. They delivered shareholder returns. Grab right here, 509. You can't get mad at them taking profits after the stock has gone up the way it's gone up. But it's not really Vlad. It's more so the co-founder, Beju, because he started a new startup. And I think he, wants to make sure he has enough money to do what he has to do. So he's been selling like a couple $100 million every other month. But Vlad has like these scheduled automated sales. He hasn't really done a market sell in a while. And Grab, by the way, Grab has not done an insider sell since July 9th. And July 9th was like a 20,000 share sell. So you haven't seen, and my tinfoil hat is that Grab knows what they're going to do with this $1.5 billion in cash. And the insiders will sell after they announce the deal that they're working on. I don't know if there is a deal. I think there is one because they raised almost $2 billion in cash for a reason. And once they do that and the stock makes its move, then they'll probably take some profits, which is fair. But we haven't seen any meaningful insider selling on Grab either in the past couple months. Same thing on Palantir, dude. We haven't seen any meaningful insider. Last time Carp and them really sold was at like 120. Like all throughout the run up into earnings and after earnings, we have not seen a massive insider sell. So a lot of their sales were in the low hundreds, which is great for them. But I mean, now stock's at 180. And so retail is, if you've held on, have been able to get better prices to be able to take some of these profits. Kayleen Williams, thank you for the $50 super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good info, learning much. Kayleen, thank you for being part of the channel and being here with the community. Diane, thank you for the $50 super chat as well. Thank you for teaching us about Palantir. Diane, thank you for being here. And again, congrats on Palantir. It's just been a hell of a story. I was actually talking with Derek on the phone this morning. Derek he's not in Palantir anymore, but he had a lot of shares. He had like 20 million shares back when it was like $10. He ended up selling it in the 20s and 30s. So he didn't end up holding on, but he loves the company so much. And so he was just talking to me this morning about how, the name has been incredible. But yeah, congratulations on Palantir and thank you for being here. And Alex, thank you for the 28 super chat. All the best for the new play submit. I really appreciate what you do. Your show has been such a great help in my trading journey. Alex, thank you for being here as well. Appreciate you being part of the show. And we all do it as a community, dude. It's not just me. I think all of us as a community contribute to try to figure out how to navigate these markets. And that's why I think that dentist wanted to subscribe to the channel. Everyone's looking for a community. Everyone is looking for some community. Let's get back to Bessent. S&P very close to going red. We'll see if there's any other headlines. And then we'll keep going from there.
Series of rate cuts here, starting with a 50 basis point rate cut in September.
A 50 basis rate cut in September. Does that signal that the economy, though, is not doing well?
That signals that there's an adjustment and the rates are too constrictive. If you look at any model that if you we should probably be 150, 175 basis points lower. So, I think the committee needs to step back. I think probably one of the most politicized governors just went off the board, and that she was very, very political, I believe. And I think that
what did she do that gave you that impression? I'd love to know.
Sorry?
I imagine you're referring to Governor Kugler. What did she do that gave you that impression?
I think there's a lot of inside baseball. And look, Governor Kugler, you read what she was saying when Kamala Harris was running, that we needed rate cuts, we needed this, we got to foam the runway. And then all of a sudden, it was hard to know whether, TDS was a Trump dementia syndrome, or Trump derangement syndrome, or tariff derangement syndrome.
You get the opportunity to remake the Federal Reserve. The president gets the opportunity to reshape the Federal Reserve. And I'm not talking about the remodeling that maybe the current chairman's going through. We'll talk about that another time. I want to talk about the complexion and character of the committee. The changes that you're making at the moment. Stephen Myron, let's start with Stephen. How quickly can you get Myron confirmed?
We'll see. The president has great sway with Leader Thune. Leader Thune's been a great partner during the tax deal, and I think that he would like to see Stephen, who I've known for a long time, get on there as soon as possible. So I'm hopeful about the September meeting. And Jonathan, the president's concerned about the building and those massive cost overrun, which just tell you that there is no accountability at that organization. There's no oversight in terms of the spending, but the president and I are both concerned about the foundations of the Fed. The foundations of the Fed, and how did this happen, and why did it happen, and how did the leadership let it happen?
When it comes to Director Myron, do you expect him to stay on past the January term that expires from Kugler's seat?
I wouldn't expect that.
So who are some names you're thinking of the Kugler seat? Because everyone has been focused on who is going to fill the chairmanship role. Who are you thinking to fill that extra seat?
Well, Anne-Marie, we're working on the big list right now. I think there are going to be a couple more names revealed today. They're going to be private sector names. So we had a series or a list of current Fed members. We're going to have some private sector, very well respected,
like who?
Very well respected people. And then we will get to the second seat.
Can you give us some names, a little bit of a tease? Maybe people that have been on this program?
Well, I just did tease telling you there would be some private sector names.
Okay, when it comes to the...
All right, so they will let us know soon what's going to be going on with the potential names for the new Fed chair. Now, Trump did, or at least Bloomberg reported that Trump has consolidated to 11 candidates. So these are the ones that you're seeing on the screen. You got Chris Waller up there. James Bullard is up there. You got David Zervos, who's a Jefferies analyst, who I actually really like, but he's super dovish. Like, if we get David Zervos, these rates are coming down. You got Kevin Hassett, Kevin Warsh, obviously, Rick Reider, who was on CNBC yesterday. I mean, you got a lot of doves that potentially could be this new Fed chair. And it looks like these rates are going to come down one way or the other. But September, we should get that rate cut. NVIDIA right here, 181.47. They're taking NVIDIA down. They're taking Hoodie down. They're taking Palantir down. Tesla's slightly green. S&P is holding on, but it's very close to also going red on the day. What about Ethereum? Ethereum just below 47. So it's probably going to be psychological to get that above 4,800 as the all-time high. But that's just at 47. So we're going to see how this one ends up playing out towards the end of the day. Again, the BlackRock Ethereum fund also got a ton of momentum yesterday, and that's been also leading to its excitement. Google, are we still holding 200? Google, we are holding 200. Yes. Okay, here's a question for everyone in the chat. Let's ask this. If we do dramatically lower rates, do you think we get an inflation problem? AKA, do you think there's a repeat of 2021, 2022 if we get like a super dove who says, screw it, we're taking rates down by 200 bips or 300 bips? Or do you think we deserve to get a 200 to 300 bip type of move? Because I think that's the concern, right? Like that's where things can really get weird if Trump says, hey, I'm getting someone to be ultra dovish, and then, you know, the dove comes in and then we have another 2021 scenario. Or do you think rates are so damn elevated, SoFi just below 24, that it's not worth it to keep it this restrictive? And as a result, you know, we need to get these rates down. Hoodie still down 4, UNH up 2, Tessie 344 as well. I want to buy the hood dip below 108. I don't want to buy it here. I want to see if they give us 107, 106. That's when I get a little bit more excited. Right here is not really a dip, in my opinion. It's annoying, down 4%, but it's not a dip. Let's see. Let's see if it breaks 108.14. That's the intraday low. If it breaks that, I'd get a bit more excited. Amazon was in the 215s last week. So, I mean, people had a shot to buy this thing after earnings. Now it's recovering a bit, 222 right here. But you do have some green on Amazon as well. Duolingo's almost 310. I'm thinking of entering into this one. Look, I can't blame anyone for thinking of this name, given how much it's been decimated. And I feel like there's a deeper story than the AI stuff. There has to be something more that people don't like about Duolingo. This is just disgusting, dude. For a company growing 40, for the past 8 quarters, they've grown 40%. And now it's down 40% year to date. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. Why not buy Robin if you think it's just a dip? I don't like the 2x leveraged ETFs. I think I'm not good at timing. And I think if you buy those, you have to really be good with timing. Also, there's NAV erosion. So maybe this is not a dip on Hood, but let's say Hood stays flat at 109 for the next 3 months, which I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say that does, right? Or from at least 105 to 110. Robin's going to erode ROBN. Now, it's been really good this year if you got the Hood bottom, because then you got Robin with an explosive 2x move. Same thing with Palantir. But a lot of these 2x funds can go sideways if, you know, the underlying doesn't make a massive move. So, yeah, that's why I'd just rather buy Hoodie itself. I agree. The Duolingo numbers were phenomenal. I agree. The only issue was their monthly active users were down for the first time quarter over quarter, but that did not seem to be a super big bear case. NVIDIA right here, still down 1%. And Tessie at 334. Let's get an update on the Perplexity Google offer yesterday. So this was a big deal. Perplexity said they were going to offer $35 billion for Google Chrome, which is kind of laughable, but let's get some coverage on this, and then we'll talk about what that means for Google as well.
Former FTC Commissioner Moselle Thompson's here at Post 9 to discuss. Moselle, it's good to have you back.
Good to be here.
We've been asking whether or not you think this bid is genuine, right? Or at least it comes from the right place.
Well, it's interesting. I think you have a lot of people out there trying to capitalize on the woes of others. And when you point your finger at someone, you have 4 more pointed back at you. It highlights the weaknesses in their own operation. They're a pretty new company, and the idea of making an offer that's almost twice as much of what their valuation is seems pretty unusual. And at the very least, it also shows that the weakness they have in getting data. They've only recently, in July, started their own search engine in order to gather more data. This company's had problems scraping data off the internet, and they have actually been sued by some pretty big companies. And what this shows is that in order to get more data, they see Chrome as a strategic asset. But in order to do that, they have to have some sort of exclusive access to Google's data.
Right. So how does it get received by the judge, do you think? Or at least how does it change the dynamics of the case, if at all?
Well, one of the challenges, and I've mentioned this before, is that things like divestiture is an unusual remedy. And in this case, where the market is changing and Google's dominance is being eroded by AI, there's a question of whether divestiture is the appropriate or most effective remedy. It could be really going after their ties, exclusive agreements with companies like Apple.
So you don't think that the judge is going to recommend a remedy to divest Chrome?
I think that I'm not sure that that is the best remedy right now. And I think most people out there, most experts think that it's unusual and may not be the appropriate one right now.
You know, speaking of Apple, I'm just curious to get your take as well on a separate story, which is Elon Musk attacking the App Store and saying it's unfairly favoring OpenAI and its ChatGPT. Is there a case to be made there by Musk?
Well, I think this is very similar to the Perplexity situation, that people are circling and trying to find out what their strategic opportunities are. But it also says more about the weakness of where Elon Musk is right now. And his XAI is not getting as much traction, even though they do have access to data through their Twitterverse, former Twitterverse.
Yes, the X platform, of course, which they can solely use for their own training.
So they are trying to position themselves so they get more market visibility. This is one way to do it. But it's also important to remember that Apple's woes will take a long time to sort out in court. If they are sitting there trying to piggyback, if Musk is trying to piggyback on the antitrust action that the DOJ has against Apple, we're only at the earlier stages of that.
We are. Okay. Their idea, though, being that they're a gatekeeper who unfairly or is unfairly deciding who has access to a huge audience.
That's right. And don't forget, if you are pointing your finger at Apple, then people are also going to look at the relationship between XAI and X.
Meantime, what's your general sense about
So look, the Google thing yesterday was very interesting. I mean, I don't think they were serious about this offer, or they might have been serious in a way to get the courts to realize, hey, there is a bidder for Google Chrome, because one of Google's arguments against the courts is, hey, we can't sell it because no one would buy it. And now Perplexity steps in and says, hey, we're willing to buy it. Now, is it worth $34 billion? I think that's laughable. This is the browser that is the gateway to billions of search results a day, which translates to tens of billions of dollars of revenue for Google. It seems unlikely that they would sell it for $34 billion, but they might be forced to sell it. So I think we're going to have to see how this plays out. I don't understand how it would be good for Google to get rid of the browser, either strategically or if they had a forced sale, because that browser is integral. It's like, I've been using Chrome for 15 years. I mean, like Chrome is, I played with Perplexity Comet and stuff, but the reason I haven't kept using it is because Chrome is so ingrained in my life. It's hard to use anything else. And I'm sure there's, billions of people like me out there in the world. So if they didn't own that anymore, I feel like that would be bearish. But I do think they would have to eventually come to some agreement. And maybe it's this separation of the browser over like their entire business getting hit. SoFi now going red on the day to appease the Justice Department. But ultimately, we're going to have to see. My biggest issue with this whole DOJ thing and antitrust is like, I don't think the internet is worse for consumers because Google has as big of a quote unquote monopoly that they have on search and advertising. Like, I think the internet has only gotten better and better for people, and people have made so many opportunities based on using Google's ad network and YouTube, etc. So if the Justice Department is like, hey, this is anti-competitive, it hurts consumers. I mean, does it? Does it really hurt consumers? I feel like all of us have had a better browsing experience because Google has been as dominant as they have. And, there are competitors out there. DuckDuckGo has people that use it. Perplexity has people that use it. Safari has people that use it. But Chrome is just a better product. Just a better product. So, yeah, there's a ton of choice in browsers. There's Firefox. I mean, there's so many that I'm not even naming that are big. So that's why I've never let the whole DOJ thing always felt weird to me. And I felt like they were just unnecessarily going after Google in a world in which we need our AI companies to have the freedom to subsidize their AI business that's not making money by the parts of the business that is making money. And if the AI part of Google's not making money yet, well, they need search to do well. And you take away the browser from them, that doesn't make it easy. Yeah, Brave as well. That's a big browser. Ask Jeeves. ChatGPT itself is competition. Like BM&R right here, up 12% of the day, trying to break 70. So I don't know. It always felt weird. But Sundar can't come out and say that this is stupid. He has to figure out how to navigate it politically. And so they've tried to settle. The settlements haven't worked. I do think we could eventually get a settlement, but we're going to have to see how Google figures out what goes on with the Apple deal. Maybe they take them away from Apple. Maybe they force them to sell off one of their other parts of the business. But ultimately we will get a better understanding of this. We got the bullish CEO on CNBC. That IPO launches in about an hour. A lot of you guys just got some shares. So let's see what the bullish CEO Tom Farley has to say about them going public.
And it is nice to have you as well. I'm sure it was a big contest between the NASDAQ or the NYSE for listing.
Of all the respect in the world for Adina and NASDAQ, we did not speak to NASDAQ. It was never a question. I just took a photo with Stacey Cunningham, Lynn Martin, and Jeff Sprecher. That was a very proud moment for me. The four kind of past leaders of the New York Stock Exchange. It's great to be back here with everyone, seeing the security guards walking in this morning, and Courtney, the photographer, and especially the three of you.
Of course, post 9.
Feels like I'm
again
home.
under your yes. Well, we're happy to have you here, in particular on a day when obviously you've got a company that has come public, as you brought so many others or watched so many others through the years of your time here leading the NYSE. All right, let's talk about Bullish.
Okay, so the CEO of Bullish is the former president of the New York Stock Exchange. So when you talk about a suit that they put as the CEO, you've got a straight up suit. This is not a founder. This is not someone who started this company in his dorm room in college. They took a suit from the New York Stock Exchange and they put him in as the CEO. So we're going to have to see now how Wall Street ultimately interprets his ability to be the CEO of this company.
Your focus, as we said, is on institutional investors. I think I want to make sure that's correct. But, the differentiation your platform has versus Coinbase or Binance, can you explain that in terms of why you've gone that road and why that is a growth path?
Yeah, great question. So we operate an exchange, and then we operate a data business that also has Coindesk,
yes,
media outfit, and a conference business. And we wake up every day saying, how can we service institutions throughout our organization? We have over 1,000 customers, which is quite a number in the crypto space, which is still growing. And, it feels like this may be a good time for crypto because you see the Genius Act coming out of Congress, the Clarity Act that came out of the House are providing an easy on-ramp for institutions to drive into crypto. The last leg of growth in crypto, the last 10 years, was basically all retail. And if you look now, the institutional wave has begun. It's here. It's a question of how big it will be. But just based on the reception we've gotten thus far as part of our IPO, it feels like institutional investors think this could be the moment.
Well, it feels like every day we have another capital raise for a company that's following the strategy of selling stock to buy some underlying, whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin. We've got stable coins all over the place. I mean, how big do you think it will be ultimately? And, in terms of when you point to investors and your opportunity here in this ecosystem, what kind of a potential growth rate are we talking about?
Well, I think the opportunity is absolutely gigantic. And let me describe. Up to this point, there's been tokenization that hasn't really been much of anything to speak of. It's you keep the traditional finance stack and you create a token that's sort of a contractual right to what already exists, and then you put out a press release. But the Congress has really created a path with this establishment of a mature blockchain in the Clarity Act, where you can imagine regulators saying, you can just issue your stock on a public blockchain. You can just issue your treasury on a public blockchain. The title to your house can be on a public blockchain, as long as that blockchain is trustworthy and free from attack and isn't under the collusive control of one or multiple parties. That opportunity is the financial markets. And I do think, look, it may turn out this is a moment of special exuberance. I mean, you see Coinbase was the largest exchange in the world by market cap. Certainly the Circle IPO, the stock was up by, you guys know better than me, 11 times, 12 times. It may turn out to be exuberance, but what the market is telling us is that potential isn't so crazy anymore. We may see major markets and major institutional players move massive asset classes onto blockchain. As you guys know better than anyone, at this place where we sit, massive change only comes about if there's technical.
The reason I don't like this so far is because he's giving you the bull case for crypto. No one asked about that. We're wanting to know the bull case about your company inside of crypto. And I have yet to hear why exactly bullish is so exciting. But all he's doing is talking up crypto, which is fine. But why bullish? Why is that the argument? Batty, thanks for the $10 super chat. She said, I lost 20,000 on bullish when they tried to SPAC in 2021. I will never invest in them again. They did try to SPAC in 2021. So it feels like there is a much more liquid environment right now for them to go public. which is why they're going public. So, I mean, if you get a big move today, maybe you take some profits, but if you want to hold on to this, if you think there is a long-term thesis, then you can. But we're going to see when this IPO is in about an hour what happens.
Logical enhancements and regulatory approval.
Right.
Regulatory acceptance.
All right, but I would just want to stop you there because you're saying something important that people may not fully understand. You seem to believe that stocks and bonds at some point may trade as tokens.
I do, but I'm pragmatic, David, and I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. These things happen slowly, but suddenly. But that is what the market is telling us. I've met with 80 investors. I've met with CEOs of the major TradFi exchanges, and everyone is talking about it now and saying, hey, what's the path? Because it's feeling more real now. And you have, by the way, you have a head of the SEC who made a comment, crypto and
yeah, again, this is, what does he say? Like, we all know, by the way, BMNR 70. There you go. You broke 70.74 on BMNR. So that's a big psychological move. Everything he's saying is just a general bull case around why you should be excited about cryptocurrencies as a thesis for investing over the future. I heard nothing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard nothing, not a single reason why bullish is going to be a big player in this industry. Unless he wants us all to think, well, bullish is associated with crypto and crypto is bullish, so therefore buy bullish stock. And if that's the thesis, I mean, I don't know if there's an argument there. There's definitely a pump there. I don't know if there's going to be a dump, but he never even said, but yeah, am I tripping? I didn't even hear him say bullish once. Now he's talking about what Paul Atkins said about the SEC. Yeah, okay. We heard that clip 3 weeks ago about Paul Atkins saying tokenization is going to be very important. Like, why is bullish going to win in the tokenization ecosystem? Because it's going to be hyper competitive. Robinhood's already launched their tokenization feature. Robinhood 109 right here. So I don't know. Maybe I don't fully understand the business that well, but I do think they're going public because there's an opportunity here to go public. Wow, Apple 233.60. So you got BitMine breaking 70, and you got Apple hitting basically 2025 highs, 233.74, now 233.78. There you go. She's running for 234. Really nice to see Ethereum doing well and Apple playing a role helping out the NASDAQ and the S&P itself. That man is a walking scam. I'm going to dump my 10 shares from IPO right away. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if it's a scam or if it's a fraud. It's just like, how long has he been the CEO? That's another question. What was his name? Tom Farley? How long is he? All right, I'm on his LinkedIn. He's been the CEO for 2 years. Okay. So not a whole lot of time, but he's been there for 2 years. Again, he was the president of the New York Stock Exchange for 5 years. Then he was at a bunch of other companies in between 2018 to 2020. And then at Bullish, he came in 2023. I want to give the company a fair shot and see what they do. BitMine right here, 70.50. She was really trying to break up above 71. Let me check resistance to 71. But I didn't get much from hearing him talk about the actual company in that interview. BMNR. There you go, 71. There you go. Dude, this stock. My goodness. The only fear is about when they're going to dilute. And again, maybe that's not even something to be afraid about because people will just buy that dip, potentially. But she is breaking through. Tom Lee, we got another video of him yesterday talking about his bull case on Ethereum at a New York City conference. And this is what he had to say yesterday.
To get to fair value for geek. I mean, to me, the simplest thing to keep in mind is that I'm a fan of Bitcoin because I think it does store value exceptionally well. But I see many story arcs that are making Ethereum the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. The first sort of path is that Wall Street is financializing onto the blockchain. We got the ChatGPT moment with stablecoins and now the Genius Act. And then secondly is, of course, Project Crypto with the SEC. But Wall Street is going to move on to the blockchain.
He goes on to say he thinks 60,000 for Ethereum is not crazy. And again, the way he numerically comes up with that is just a proportionate amount of Wall Street embracing crypto. So 60,000 sounds crazy, which would be what, more than a 10x from here. But his argument is if 20% of the global financial system begins to use Ethereum as the de facto, call it blockchain or call it ecosystem that they build on top of, and Walmart's interested, PayPal's interested, Amazon's interested, Goldman Sachs, all these financial institutions and large companies and conglomerates are interested in building on that blockchain, that is where you get a massive move. And that's why I think he's raising $20 billion to buy Ethereum. I mean, it's like Saylor, right? Saylor thinks Bitcoin's going to, like, I think his short term, not his short term, but his like almost bear case target is 13 million a coin. And he probably thinks it's going much higher than that. If you think something's going to 13 million and it's trading at 120,000 and you can get money at 0%, you would be doing whatever you can to buy more of it, right? I think that's how Tom Lee's seeing Ethereum. And in the coming years, we'll know if he's right or not. Nebius down 5% from Coreweave. Nebius, I don't think deserves to be 5%. They had a great quarter, but Coreweave kind of dragging down the entire sector. So I wouldn't be too upset if you're a Nebius investor. Coreweave, though, down 15% on their EPS miss for earnings. Lulu, is Lulu a bottom? We talked about it yesterday. Jason doesn't love the trade. He does think the technicals potentially could be decent. A friend of the channel, Chris Camillo, is very excited about Lulu, although he already lost some money on it. He is continuing to double down on this name.
I doubled down on Lululemon and lost $200,000. But do you know what I did? I then took another $200,000 and bought more Lululemon calls. So I'm back. I'm back, baby. If you look, Lulu's trading at like 13 PE. The stock is down like 65%. And I am seeing a lot of tailwinds in the product mix. There's the jacket. The jacket's really hot. In fact, there's a bag. There's a tote bag in a like light color, and it's going viral on TikTok, and people are freaking out. This is going to be the tote bag of the fall. I'm telling you guys, it's just a new colorway, but people love it. Honestly, like, there are tailwinds in the product mix that I like. If you were to go on Google Trends and simply type in Lululemon 5-year chart, you will see the biggest pop you've ever seen in summertime. We never see a pop in search traffic for Lululemon during the summer. It never happens. It's astonishing. I doubled down on Lululemon.
You guys buying it? You buy the thesis? I don't know, bro. He's talking about this tote bag for the fall. I don't know. I don't know if that's the argument. Now, again, Chris, to his credit, he's a momentum trader and he's social arbitrage. So he is going to trade based on what he sees in the zeitgeist of the comments on TikTok and stuff like that. My issue with Lulu is they said freaking grab, by the way, 510. They said tariffs are an issue. Now, is the stock discounted for tariffs being an issue? Probably at 13 times. But tariffs are still an issue. And this is one of the companies that's been affected by tariffs, particularly because they get a lot of their stuff from the rest of the world. They don't, manufacture their clothes in the United States, and they have a high markup. The tariffs are now creating an issue for them. So that is what I'm looking forward to on the earnings. I think the earnings is next week to get a better understanding of what exactly is their new outlook with tariffs. Hood's down 4%. AppLovin's down 4%. ABCL is up 6%. Yeah, ABCL and Grab are both up today. Hood and AppLovin are both down. Hood moves with AppLovin as well. I mean, if both, like, guys, this is absolutely, in my opinion, both of these being pegged together. Hood and AppLovin have traded with each other the entire year because they are seen as like the next two S&P 500 candidates. They're seen as very strong momentum trades. Hood is kind of outperformed because, they really got beat up and they had a lot of momentum on the earnings. They also have the crypto tailwind, all that stuff. But AppLovin has started to outperform, or started to at least get momentum based on the earnings they just had from 350 to 450. But the fact that they're both down 4%, that's the algos saying we're going risk off right now. But then it's hard to say the algos are going risk off because then Bitmine's hitting $70. So it's like, it's a little weird back and forth how it's playing out. And I don't really have the best response for exactly why it's happening this way. And then you got Circle, that's also down 5%. And MicroStrategy, Saylor's not diluting. I don't know why MicroStrategy is down 2% today. But that one's also taking a hit. So might just be a little bit more of algos coming into place, especially because we're mid-August. You got a lot of people sitting on a lot of profits. Any hint of weakness, this is the hard part about it in bull market. You got a lot about Trump's about to go live, by the way. You have a lot of excitement. As soon as there's a dip or like a pullback, people get scared that they're going to lose all their profits and they sell. And so far this year, that has been a bad decision because then we have a rebound. So like if you sold on August 1st, you're pretty upset. If you sold Hood at 93, right, you're not happy. But sometimes that dip can last longer than expected, and it might end up being a decent trade if you do sell into some of that weakness. I just think the fundamentals are why I'm not selling Hood or any other stock right now. I mean, like all the fundamentals are strong, and the covered calls is my way to play the volatility, but I don't see the need to necessarily get super scared at these levels, given that I think Q3 is going to be strong as well. All the MSCR money is going to be M&R. Yeah, that's possible. Wow, bullish. They're currently projected to open at 60 a share. Dude, this IPO was priced at 30, then it moved to 33, then it moved to 37. Now it's moving to 60. This is why they're going public. You've got this much demand for a company that I think most people don't even know exactly what they do. I mean, you have that much liquidity out there, people are going to buy it. Rate cuts at a 99.9% probability, is it? Wow, yeah. 99.9% chance. CME says we get a rate cut. That would be rather good in September if we could get that rate cut. $13 million going into VIX calls. Are you expecting something? I mean, we could see an expectation of something, bro. 13 million into VIX calls. VIX is down, obviously, on the day. 1470. It's a little bit of a spike up. Yeah, I mean, you know, they could also just be hedging with some protection via the VIX. S&P, very close to going red. It hit 646. It's at 643, but it's 0.7% away, 0.17% away from going red. Yeah, it could also be a hedge. I don't think bullish will be a pump and dump. I think, well, okay, let me rephrase. I think there will be a sustained pump, and then eventually, in my opinion, I think people will take profits. So if I had an allocation, I would. But I've been consistent on this. With Figma, I said I would dump it if I got it. With Circle, I said I would dump it. And so, like in general, on an IPO, if I make a big move, I take the money. But I don't think it'll be a pump and dump today. I do think over the coming weeks, people might be saying, what the hell did I buy? Why did I buy this thing? And then you might see a little bit of a pump and dump. And again, that doesn't make me the most bullish for the markets because this is a company that is going public. They're going to have to deal with public shareholders and public SEC filings and earnings calls. And you want good companies that are going public in the US stock markets. I don't know if this is a good company. And it feels like it's a liquidity grab, which makes me a little nervous about the environment of just like why these companies are going public. But then again, this is what a bull market also has. You have some portions of froth, and it's not crazy to imagine this is one of those. What do you think of Kava? Look, Kava, the same store sales were not good. So I understand why this is down. It's recovering a little bit. It was down 23%. Now it's down 15%. But you just didn't have a lot of momentum. Along with Chipotle. And that's probably why you're getting it. All right, let's get a little bit more coverage, and then we'll keep going from there.
Yeah, it's kind of an echo of what Barkin said yesterday, that this is not 2021 where consumer was stuck at home and flush with cash. This is actually a consumer that he said is now stretched and will have to make choices if, in fact, they get some price inflation.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. But I do think that the balance of risks are more balanced, right? For the Fed, for the overall economy. Now we have some signs of weakness in the labor market. Consumers holding up well, but there's weakness there. And then the Fed, which was really overly worried or maybe overly worried about inflation, maybe doesn't need to worry about that quite as much. At least that's the signal from some of what we're getting today, like small business this week.
Speaking of the Fed, let's turn to Steve Leisman because we have some new potential replacements for Chair Powell that are being floated. Mr. Leisman broke that story. He's got the details for us. Steve.
Yeah, good morning, David. CNBC learning that the Trump administration currently considering 11 candidates. That includes three names that have not previously been disclosed, all those to replace Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell when his term expires in May. According to two administration officials, the three new names include Jefferies chief market strategist David Zervos, former Fed Governor Larry Lindsey, and Rick Reider, well known to CNBC viewers, all of them, by the way, but Rick Reider, the chief investment officer for fixed income at BlackRock. They now join a list of 8 other candidates that CNBC has confirmed are under consideration, including several current and former Fed officials, along with NEC Director Kevin Hassett and former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh. The officials described a, quote, deliberative process now taking place where Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will interview all the candidates, winnow down the list, and pass it on to the finalists to the president for his decision.
Speaking of Rick Reider, this was him yesterday saying that this rally has a lot of legs behind it.
Pretty extraordinary. First of all, you take the equity side. First of all, the technicals and equities are crazy. I know we've talked about it before. Amount of cash on the sideline, the amount of buybacks relative to the IPO calendar, i.e. the demand versus supply, is pretty extraordinary. And these companies, you know, we've talked about on the show, the multiple's not that attractive. These companies are throwing off the earnings growth. So I looked at 2024. If you strip out Tesla for obvious reasons, Mag 7 year-on-year growth is like 54%. You get through multiple pretty quickly when you're growing that fast. Then you take the other side of it is you've got in income, in fixed income, you're getting yield levels. Listen, I think the Fed can cut rates, but until then, you got yield levels. You can create portfolio 6.5%, 7% yield. That's pretty good. I would throw one last thing. Today, volatility, you don't have to necessarily, one of the things I always think about, what's your exit strategy? What's your escape hatch if you get something surprising? The volatility, the equity market, you know, we did a trade today, equity vol, I think it was 10 vol, 9.5, 10 vol to own, like crazy low volatility to own equities. So you don't actually have to take the downside risk. So that's a pretty good environment.
And the Fed's going to cut in September?
Listen, I think they can cut. I think it's almost a given that they cut. And, you know, particularly if you got a payroll report that shows what has heretofore happened, you're seeing some sogginess around job hires, around job openings, that I think the Fed's got. You've got more slack coming into the labor market. So I think they can move. Listen, I still think the funds rate, you can get it down faster and more aggressively than where they are today. You're talking about, you know, the inflation report today. Mm-hmm. You're still talking about there's a little bit of elevation from tariffs, which I think you have to be respectful of, and I think the Fed's been respectful of that. But you're still running under 3% core CPI, and things like shelter, you're starting to see some improvement in. I think they've got room. You talk about 5-year inflation break-evens at 2.5%. I think you got room to get that funds rate down 100 basis points.
Why aren't they all talking as if they have room? And not everybody agrees with your assessment. They're worried about sticky inflation. They look at the CPI and they say, well, yeah, it beat expectations, but it still shows that it's still a bit of a problem and it's above our target.
So, Scott, I think there's something that's really important. How the interest rate tool affects inflation. You think about the Fed raised rates 500 basis points. The impact on the economy, inflation, I would argue, not terribly significant. The interest rate tool doesn't do a lot today. You think about how companies finance CapEx, big cap. You're not borrowing. You think about the banks are asset liability. The interest rate tool is not that important, except for a couple of big factors. What it does to housing, and you look at mortgage applications, building permits, housing starts, new home sales,
frozen,
stuck. The mortgage rate has to come down. You drop the funds rate.
By the way, the mortgage rate this morning came in at 6.7%, the lowest all year. So you did have, lowest in the 4 months. So you did have at least some pressure coming to the downside. 6.67 is what we had on the 30-year mortgage this morning.
You know, there's some yield curve steepening that probably happens. And then the other side of it is, the low-income people who are the borrowers, you're actually, you know, they are getting hurt by this. High savings, older people are actually benefiting from the high rates. And the last thing that I will say, I don't think the funds rate has to be at 4 3/8. The cost to the government, we have too much debt in this country to charge an extra 100 basis points when I think the transmission of how it impacts inflation that I think is dull to start with. Is it worth it? It's a pretty high price to pay.
If the White House is listening to what you're saying right now, they're all standing up yelling, yes, yes, this is the story we've been trying to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a couple of things. One, I think you have room. And I think you have room to bring that rate down. I also think there's something spectacular happening around productivity, much of what's happening on the backside of this technology investment, not just the traditional hyperscaler dynamics, but you think about how big companies are using data. You think about space as a new technology. Like all of these are geared towards higher productivity, operating at a lower cost basis. That's where we're going. I sent you over this chart. I don't know if you saw that chart that shows, other than a pandemic, a once in 100-year dynamic, inflation, volatility of inflation for the last 25 years is incredibly low. We don't run an economy that's manufacturing, commodity oriented. It's not cyclical. Volatility of inflation is incredibly low, and we're seeing enhanced productivity. But I'm not that worried if the Fed drops the rate that all of a sudden we're going to see inflation pick up.
I mean,
So you got BlackRock's Rick Reider making a pretty strong argument around why rate cuts right here are not something that could elevate inflation, but also why this is the best environment for investors, given the tailwinds of AI, margin productivity enhancements, and the CapEx spend that we're seeing from the hyperscalers. And you put all those together along with the earnings growth, that is where you get a bull argument, and that's why these S&P 500 targets have increased as well. Bitcoin right here, 68.20, that's up 9.3%. Hoodie just below 109. We're not seeing the intraday low. 108.14 is what I'm looking at to see if that comes actually lower than the dip we had 20 minutes ago. That's at 108.92. That's slightly red. And then the point on housing is also a hell of a point as well. I mean, you unlock the housing market as rates come down. That opens up an entire new sector of growth. Chase Coleman of the Tiger Global hedge fund bought a lot of Zillow last quarter. We're going to see his new update soon. He also owns 92 million shares of Grab. He has not sold Grab for like 3 years, but he bought Zillow for the first time, and probably based on a rate cut proxy towards the housing market unlocking. So you got the housing market potentially unlocking, you got rates coming down, you have inflation being stable, you have earnings going up, and then you have the AI CapEx trade being very substantial and showing no signs of going away, which is obviously bullish for the overall productivity and ROI we can get from AI in general. That's your bull case. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have days where you see some volatility. And today in certain names, you are seeing some of that volatility. Now, here's the question on a day like this, right? And this is everyone's, own personal portfolio management prerogative. But also it's a good day for people that are sitting on some big gains and they're trying to figure out how do they manage their portfolios, where a Robinhood that they might be heavy in is down 5%, a Palantir is down a bit, and Nvidia is down a bit. I mean, do you sell? I think that's the question. And to me, again, with all the data we're looking at, if you're selling to just be in cash because you think it could get worse, I understand that. If you're selling because you think it's the end of the world, based on all the data we're looking at, I just don't see how that makes sense. Or at least, there could be other pieces of data to change that perspective, but it's hard to sell with that level of earnings and with a almost 100% chance of, or 99% chance of rate cuts coming up. So yeah, it's one of those days where you kind of just say, all right, whatever. You're not as glued to the candlesticks as you were on the green days. I mean, that's really what these days kind of look like. By the way, 53% of you said if we do dramatically lower rates, inflation could be a problem. So 2026, we're going to see a much bigger understanding. This is why I'm so big on covered calls, because I sold covered calls on Hood when it was 116.80 for 120, picked up $2 a premium. If it got to 120, it is what it is. I would have rolled it or even let those shares get called away potentially, but it's not. Hood was at all-time highs. I said, look, maybe 120 is a bit aggressive by this week. I think by this year, that's possible. By this week, it's a bit aggressive. Someone on the street was paying me $2 a share. I took that $2,000 a premium, and now it's up $1,800 because Robin at 108.50. So I do think the volatility of navigating those covered calls, it doesn't always work perfectly, but there are certain days, like a day like this, where that's where you yield it. And that is why doing further out of the money covered calls also gives you a better shot to just not get it called away. If Robinhood did get to like 118, 119, you do have some breathing room there. Yes, you can sell calls again and again and again. And again, Robinhood, we looked at that liquidity chart yesterday. It's the 13th most liquid chart in the liquid stock in the market, bro. So the amount of premiums and people willing to engage in the selling of calls and puts is just massive. And you kind of need a stock to be able to do that. So yes, Hood is up from 40 earlier this year. I would not be freaking out about a 5% down day. It is what it is. I don't think we can get that greedy. But Hood and AppLovin being down at the same time to me says it's kind of more algo, or maybe it's a big insider selling. We'll find out after the close today. But we will get those July metrics, and we'll see that. We'll see that as well. CEG down almost 5%. All right, so you got some of the energy names that are getting hit. AMD, is that back to 180? That was at 186. AMD, wow, back to 180. All right, so AMD gave up a lot of its gains as well. Yeah, NVIDIA and Tesla were the number 1 and 2 most liquid names that were there. Duolingo is trying to go to 300, bro. I don't know how bad this narrative has gotten. 307, but it is disgusting, bro. Like, there's got to be something deeper here besides AI for the streets upset. But that is aggressive. NVIDIA is down almost 1.5%, hit all-time highs yesterday. Bitcoin below 121. Yeah, you're seeing across the board now. Seeing people take profit. You know, I mean, look, I think bullish will do well as the IPO, but you are seeing red candles across the board. So I am curious to see how the IPO does. But if it's this much oversubscribed, then you're probably going to get a good result. Trump just tweeted, wow, highest polling Republican president in history. Highest polling Republican president in history. That is what Trump just tweeted. By the way, this headline just came through. Sam Altman is reportedly co-founding Merge Labs, a brain-computer inference startup or interface startup that could rival Elon Musk's Neuralink. The company is targeting an $850 million valuation, much of it coming from OpenAI's venture arm. Talks are still early. Neuralink is currently running trials for patients with severe paralysis and was last valued at $9 billion. Dude, that's wild. Competing with freaking Neuralink and using the money of OpenAI, which Elon should be an owner of, but now he's not because he got ousted, to be able to do the seed funding to compete with Elon's competitor, which is Neuralink. I mean, that's, if this is true, that is wild, bro. Absolutely wild. Hood broke 107. There she goes. There she goes. 107.72. Okay, so now it's looking for buyers. Now it broke the intraday low. Now it's looking for buyers. I'm gonna step in. I'm doing 10 shares. I'm stepping in at 107.50. There you go. Orders in. You guys just saw it on Legend. There you go. 107.54. I stepped in. All right. I tried to help. Hoodie. There you go. 107.50. Maybe it dumps more. Maybe it does. We're going to see. But 5% down here, to me, that is aggressive, and it's likely either an algo or an insider. But again, I'm buying here knowing if it goes back to 100, I cannot complain. I'm not trying to be greedy here. I'm very grateful for what Hood has done this year. I hope it can, 120 is kind of my end of year target. I hope it can get there. I think it can go beyond it, but I think 120 would be amazing by the end of the year. There's plenty of catalysts, S&P, Q3 earnings, all that stuff, but might take a little bit of a breather. It's had a very, very strong run over the past couple of months. Palantir as well below 185, 184.87. Tessie now below 340. Tesla goes red for the day. It was very close to 350. And NVIDIA at 7 cents away from going below 180. It looks like we are getting a good old-fashioned, I don't even want to call it a pullback today, but I guess sell-off is what I would rather say. Sell-off today. That's all right. It happens. S&P never filled the gap at 636 yesterday. Maybe we got a gap fill coming up. I mean, look, we went to 646 pretty quickly, bro. Even I was surprised yesterday how easily we cracked 640 and then just busted to 646 into the pre-markets and then on the market open today. So I would not be surprised if we do a retest. I think that'd be normal. And if so, that means Hoodie's probably going to 104, 103, Google might go below 200. SoFi's probably going back to 2250. You're going to see a lot of these names get hit. NVIDIA below 180. There she goes. 179.70 on NVIDIA. Trump is supposed to be live. He is going to be announcing the Kennedy Center honorees. So it's not really a market thing. Like it's not like he's not talking about tariffs or anything like that. But we'll see when he does go live. Yeah, here's an update on Coreweave, and then we'll keep going from there.
Coreweave on the move. Losses widening as the company tries to meet what their CEO is calling unprecedented demand for AI. Shares getting a hit on the earnings report. Christina Partsinevelos here to break things down. I guess it's a good problem to have, Christina. Stock's down there 14%.
Yeah, I'll get to why specifically, but the company did beat revenue expectations by 12% and locked in expansion deals, they said, with 2 major hyperscaler customers. The bulls will say solid execution in this AI infrastructure space. Definitely a lot of bullish notes out this morning. But as you can see, the stock is down quite a bit, down 14%. No, not so much on fundamentals as it is about timing. Shares have absolutely ripped higher, about 120% gains since the last earnings report. And that kind of run up really sets a high bar. And now this is the key. We've got the lockup period expiring later this week, considering that the company just IPO'd this year, which means a flood of previously restricted shares could hit the market this Friday AM. The numbers from the report tell a mixed story. Yes, revenue growth was strong, but Coreweave, and Sarah, you mentioned that in the intro, is spending heavily to capture that growth. We're talking about 4 to 5 times the revenue in capital expenditures. That's been the known trade-off here, though. That's, again, what the bulls will say, and it's why margins keep getting squeezed in the near term. Citi noted that while the OpenAI contract they talked about was already announced, new backlog additions were modest at just 200 million. So net new, only 200, even though the company talked about a much higher number. Expect volatility as these lockup shares to really just get absorbed. But the AI demand, to your point, really just, according to them, remains intact, with demand still outpacing supply. But the reason you're seeing such a drastic sell-off are 2 reasons: the high bar set prior to earnings and the lockout period. So wait for that to flush out, and then could be a buying opportunity.
We will keep our eyes on it through the course of the week. Christina, thank you.
All right, Coreweave getting hit right here, 19%. Oof. That one is a little ugly. Yeah, I agree. Fundamentals still solid. I think Coreweave ran up a little bit too much going into the print. 103 to 150 is a big move. And the earnings just weren't that good enough to maintain that momentum. Robin Hoodie, 107.60, down 5% of the day. AMD, 180. AMD gave up a lot of its pump as well. Grab from 510 to 507. At least it's holding above 5. And then Amazon 223. By the way, I was tracking the institutional ownership on Grab. 30 institutions have sold their positions in Q2. 46 have added new positions. So the buying is outpacing the selling. JP Morgan added like 30 million shares over the past quarter. Now, JP Morgan, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, these aren't like the most bullish buys because they kind of have to buy stocks because they're also market makers. But still, they increased their position as well. I am just curious about Howard Marks, dude. That's the one I want to see. I'm curious about Howard Marks. Did he buy more? Oh, we got another super investor. Let's see. This person, Francois Rokon. I'm definitely saying that name wrong. Francois Rokon. They managed 2.9 billion. This one just came out. Let's see what they did. It's a lot of adding. A lot of adding. Okay, so they added Berkshire, Meta, Schwab, Visa. They reduced Progressive, Booking, Google. They added CarMax. They added Fiserv. They added Starbucks, Google, Keysight, Arista, Bank of America, Lululemon, 143,000 shares. Walt Disney, 5%. JP Morgan, 14% they added. They added 81% to their Apple position. They sold Capital One 25%. They sold MT Bank 97%. They sold some of their S&P 4%. They added 16% to Microsoft, 5% to the BlackRock U.S. Home Construction Builder ETF. He murdered that name. Yeah, I definitely said it was like a French name or something. Francois Rokon. We'll see how to pronounce it in a second, but I definitely did that wrong. And then they bought Amazon. They bought 1,000 shares of Amazon. Okay, so you have a lot of buying from this fund. 2.9 billion. I've never heard of this investor. They're from Quebec. Oh, that's why it sounds French. This is the guy. This is the guy managing 3 billion. Okay, let's ask Google. How do you say that? Dude, this must be so bad. Francois? Google says It's not giving me the voice thing, but it looks like that's how you say it. Never heard of this person, but they added a lot. They added a lot to some of the Mag 7. Let me see if ChatGPT can pronounce it. Can you help me pronounce this? Let's see. Yes, give me the audio for it. Let's see if ChatGPT gives it. I can't directly produce audio. Go to look at this. Go to Google Translate from ChatGPT. This is why Google has a moat, bro. This is why Google has a moat. Go to Google Translate, set the language to French, and then type it in. That's hilarious, bro. Set the language to French. Okay, so we'll put it from French to English, and we'll see what it says. Berkshire's is not out yet. Should be out soon. Should be out soon. All right, so this is Google.
François Rochon.
Oh, you got to be out of your mind if you thought I was going to say that. You actually, like, legitimately out of your mind if you thought I was going to say that.
François Rochon.
I mean, no. That was not going to happen. I said Francois Racon. I said Francois Racon, and it's actually
François Rochon.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening, bro. Robinhood back to 108. That's not happening. But okay, that they bought stocks. They bought all these super investors. There's not a lot of net selling. There's like strategic selling here and there, but they are net buyers of a lot of these stocks, which is kind of what we're seeing in the equity markets reflected as institutional investors start to allocate more capital. Dude, who in the chat could have actually said that right? There's no way anyone could have said it the way the Google Translate lady said it. There's no way. Unless you're like from Quebec. Like, no way, bro. Come on. There's just no way. Duolingo can't dude, Duolingo needs to make a web app where you can like they need to, why don't they make like a Google Translate competitor? Is it like, hold on, isn't that a great idea, Duolingo, to make a Google? How many views, let's see, how many hits a month does Google Translate get? I'm gonna guess, I have no idea. I'm gonna guess like 20 million. GoogleTranslate.com. Okay, this one, I don't know if they have the exact search data for this. Google Translate, similar web's not giving it to me. I don't know if Google breaks it up. Okay, so I can't find the exact number, but I would say it's like in the tens of millions of people, probably way more than 20 million that visit Google Translate every month. Like, it has to be way more. So if Duolingo came up with it, it's not that hard. I mean, they should be able to do it in like 5 minutes. And then just, they have all the marketing on TikTok. They can easily tell people to go to this. Why haven't they done that? Isn't that a great idea? Isn't that a great idea if Duolingo can become like the go-to website for people to just like learn how to say something or translate something? Like, it's a language learning app. I know this is kind of different from language learning, but it's still part of that ecosystem. I feel like that's not crazy. Reddit is 230. I think that's all-time highs on Reddit. That is, folks, all-time highs on Reddit are very close. All-time highs February 10th. No, all-time highs February 10th was 229. Now we're at 230. So there you go. Reddit, just an incredible earnings. And that one getting a decent amount of momentum. Google Translate handles over 100 billion words daily. Okay, yeah. So I was way off on 20 million. That's peanuts. I feel like Duolingo needs to have me on their board of directors, because how have they not done that yet, bro? That's easy. It would gaslight the hell out of you if you didn't ask them a question for a day. That's also fair. But still, how have they not competed with Google Translate? They don't need to beat Google Translate, but I mean, to get a little bit of that search traffic, I don't think that's a crazy idea. And the website would take like seconds to build for them. Trump tells European leaders and Zelensky that conceding territory will be necessary, according to Axios. Okay, so this is what Trump kind of hinted at on Friday last week when he was taking questions. I mean, look, I don't know if there's any world where European leaders or Zelensky would actually concede, but I think Trump's going to give them hey, it's either this or the war continues. And so we're going to have to see. But Friday, we're going to get the official meeting between him and Putin. Their thing is to help you learn the language, not speak for you. Yeah, that's fair. But I just feel like this is obvious. Like Duolingo should be able to handle this use case pretty simply. Again, this they don't need this idea for the stock to be higher. The stock should not be at 3 times. I mean, that just feels aggressive, dude. But who knows? Maybe that would help them out as well. AMD 180. She's trying 180.90 now, trying to get back to 181, but it was at 186. Dude, if we get a Putin-Ukraine deal, obviously the markets will like it because there will be more stability geopolitically, but it's just hard to imagine that we actually do on Friday. Because if they've gone years without giving up or agreeing to give up territory, why would they do it now? Now, Trump's argument would be, well, a lot more people are dying right now. And he has a point. But still, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if they easily agree to that. If they don't concede, they will lose more territory. I say this, and I have Ukrainian friends, but the best thing they can do is negotiate a compromise. I think a lot of people, including the president, probably agrees with that argument. I don't know if the Ukrainian people are ready to give up land. I don't know if Zelensky is ready to do that either. It's so complicated, and I'm not a geopolitical expert, but obviously you've got a lot of Ukrainian pride for their sovereignty, and that's why they've been fighting so hard. But you also have the reality of war. So it's a tough thing for Trump to figure out. And I don't know if he's going to be able to. But on Friday, I think we'll get a lot more clarity on what's going to happen. Here is Goldman Sachs. They are responding to Trump. Trump again said that Goldman Sachs knows nothing about economics. Here's one of their top equity analysts defending what they put out over the past couple of weeks.
22% of tariff costs through June, but that their share will rise to 67% if the recent tariffs follow the same pattern as the earliest ones. Joining us here at Post 9 is David Miracle, Goldman Sachs chief U.S. economist. What was the reaction on the economics team yesterday to this post?
Yeah, well, look, we stand by the results of this study. I think it's very early to be drawing definitive conclusions about how tariff costs will be shared. But in principle, tariff costs can be borne by foreign exporters, by U.S. businesses, or by U.S. consumers. Now, we've had tariffs in place on that very first round from China for about 5-6 months. So I think we have learned a little something. Our conclusion is that U.S. businesses have borne most of the tariff costs so far because it takes time to negotiate lower import prices or to pass price increases along to consumers. But if the most recent tariffs, like the April tariff, follow the same pattern that we've seen with those earliest February tariffs, then eventually, by the fall, we estimate that consumers would bear about 2/3 of the cost, foreign exporters would bear about 1/4 of the cost, and U.S. businesses would absorb less than 10%. That probably sounds small, less than 10%, but bear in mind that is a net number. If you are a company importing or using goods to sell in the U.S., you're going to get hit harder. If you are a company producing in the U.S., who is now protected from foreign competition, you can raise your prices and benefit. So those are our estimates, and I think actually they're quite consistent with what many other economists have found.
So our debate has been about whether or not the consumer at this point is so fragile that they won't absorb those price increases, and it'll fall on the company once again, the U.S. importer. Why wouldn't that happen?
Yeah, I think there will be some split. What we generally saw in 2019 was that a surprising amount fell on consumers, in part because companies did pass along much of the cost, but also in part because there were additional spillover effects, where again, if you're protected from foreign competition, you take the opportunity to raise your own prices. I agree with you that the consumer looked fairly fragile in the first half of the year. Consumer spending growth decelerated a lot, despite the fact that real income growth still probably quite a bit sturdier in the first half than it's going to be in the second half. Job growth is slowing, so labor income growth will slow. We got some one-off Social Security back payments that we're not going to get again. And as tariff effects on prices continue to accumulate, that will further erode real or inflation-adjusted income.
I guess the problem the president had with the research is that everybody expected this all to be very inflationary when he announced tariffs. And so far, we've had inflation report after inflation report that has not shown it feeding into the overall headline rate. I mean, a little bit of tick up here and there, but it's not. I mean, you have to be surprised that we haven't seen it in a bigger way. That's why the market is rallying now on the idea of a cut.
So one thing that I think we've learned that maybe I didn't fully appreciate is just that for very mundane reasons, there are implementation lags that delay these effects. Anything that was on the boat is exempt. That gets you from that big April 9th reciprocal tariff about a month into May. And then Customs doesn't charge people every day. Sometimes those payment lags can be another month. So to expect to have seen all of this by June and July is just a little premature. We think so far the effects, I agree, have not been huge, but are worth about 0.3% on core consumer prices. That is a little bit smaller, actually, than the Fed's estimate. Their estimates have been a bit larger than ours. But I do think most of the impact is still ahead of us. I'm not worried about it. I think, like the White House, like Fed officials, we would see this as a one-time price level effect. I see the inflation picture as a two-part story. You have a falling underlying trend, leaving tariffs aside, that is moving back to 2% for the same reasons it has been for the last 3 years. But I also think that these tariff effects will push in the other direction, probably push inflation above 3%. I don't think this will matter a whole lot to the Fed because now they have a labor market to worry about. And I think that's going to be the dominant concern.
Core CPI, 3-month annual.
All right, so Goldman sticking by their arguments around how this market is playing out. AMD right here, 180, 171 from 179. Hoodie almost at 109 from 107.50. That seems to be 107.28 was the actual low on the day. Grabs at 510 and NVIDIA back to 180. Again, we got to see, dude, are these dips meaningful enough to get people out of the market? Because as of now, it just looks like dips get bought. Lyft's up 3%. Uber's up a little bit. Lyft right there. There you go, up 3%. It just looked like dips get bought. And, we got to see some real sustained downward momentum for those dips to not be as easily swallowed up as they are. After the bell today, we have Cisco and D-Local. Those are the earnings. Cisco and D-Local. So that's what we got today. So nothing too crazy in the earnings market or in the broader stock market for earnings. There you go. Did anyone else buy the dip? Did anyone put in the chat? I mean, you guys saw me. I bought 10 shares of Hood. Did anyone else do anything at all today? People take profits, anything? Grab. She's trying to break through 510, holding that. Oh, there were some really big buys on Grab. Someone yesterday on the order flow bought 700,000 shares at $4.99 or something. They had two purchases of 350,000 shares. So you did have a couple of those big purchases come in yesterday. So that one holding above 5. Samir said, I sold my Grab and I rent to consolidate into Nebius. I don't hate that. You don't need a lot of winners. You just need one or two of them that really work out. Someone said I bought Hood at 109. The Prince said I bought Cisco. Ray said I bought Meta. I like it. Buying Meta into strength. I like it. Daniel bought Hims. Randy bought some PTIR. Redford bought some SoFi. Alan bought 100 NVIDIA. Elaine bought Grab yesterday. Okay, not too bad. Bloomberg headline, top U.S. chip gear maker Applied Materials faces China rival lawsuit alleging trade secret theft. AMAT Materials, Applied Materials. Let's see how that stock's doing. That one is flat. China's accusing them of stealing their trade secrets. Okay. The ongoing tech war, or the chip war between the U.S. and China, continues to get aggressive as well. Duck said I bought some Duolingo. I got filled on Hood at 107.27. Dude, that's literally the bottom. You literally got, you literally got the bottom on Hoodie. Bought Hood at 107.50 from Krishna. PayPal. Roger added some MSTX. Abhishek bought some GitLab. Did the GitLab CEO step down yesterday or something? GitLab's up 3.4%. The CFO said I think someone on the executive team left yesterday, if I'm not wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I saw a headline around that with GitLab. Brian says I bought S&P 647 calls for next week. You guys are more degen than me, bro. Like I have not got to the stage of degen where I'm buying a weekly call option on the S&P. I've really never done that. Maybe one day I'll do that for fun, but like I've never done that. But some of you guys are doing it. CEO stepping down, right? Okay, that's from GitHub. That's not GitLab, right? Or is that also GitLab? GitHub, I did see that headline yesterday. GitHub is owned by Microsoft. GitLab, Google was going to buy them out a couple years ago, but then they didn't. But GitLab's a different company. I mean, it's a similar company, but it's a different stock. Yeah, GitHub CEO stepping down. That came out yesterday. Your couch delivery is delayed so you could do the open tomorrow. Dude, I really wish. I was hoping they would say 1 to 3. I was like, all right, I'll do the show and then I'll leave. And these guys are saying 10 to 1, bro. Freaking 10 to 1. Trump is live. All right, do we want to see Trump live? By the way, I just got a notification that my merch came from Palantir. So, all right, I'm going to switch to Trump. I'm going to go downstairs, get the merch, and then we'll do a live unboxing of the merch in a little bit. But let me pull up Trump.
Amassed 60 #1 hits, wow, and produced 33 platinum certified albums, more than any other living American. That is amazing. He's believed by millions of people to just be as good at it as you can get, and he's beloved by hundreds of millions of people all over the world. He's really something, and they call him the king of country, and we know him very well, George Strait. Okay, please. Oh, it looks nice. You're a good-looking guy. I hope he still looks like that. Second is actor, singer, philanthropist, and star of the Broadway stage. One of my favorite talents. I think he's one of the greatest talents I've ever actually seen. I've always said I enjoy.
Okay, so again, this is not really about the markets. So I don't know if there's any real value to watching this. He's like honoring some people. But yes, Trump is live. I just don't know if there's anything that exciting to watch. But I did get some Palantir merch. So here we go. This is the box. Just came in. Let's open her up here. Got the handy dandy knife. And let's see what we got. I ordered this I think a month ago. A lot of people are probably getting their merch today. Or at least more people should be getting their merch now. Let's see what we got here. I think the packaging of this is going to be the exciting part because this is a different type of package. So, oh, wow. This is cool. This is cool, dude. Wow. This is legit. Yo, Eliano, he has outdone himself here. Step the game up. Palantir Technologies software collection made in USA, not a black box. Dude, look at that. Section 25, that's 2025. This is dope. I ordered this. I think I ordered this a month ago. So a lot of people that ordered are probably getting it right now. But the reason it took long is because they're really showing off the packaging right here. Palantir established 2003. All right, let's open it. This is pretty cool. This is nice. All right, so let's see right here. I got a shirt, so I think it's just a t-shirt. Let's open this up. Oh, wow. This is dope, bro. This is legit dope. Look at this. You got a letter from Carp. Thank you for your dedication to Palantir and your mission to defend the West. The future belongs to those who believe in build, and we build to dominate. Not bad. Then you have this. I don't know what's in this. Let's see. Oh, wow. This is cool. These are like, this is your authenticity certificate for the merch. And then you have a bunch of these. Dude, I definitely got to put this on my laptop. I have no stickers on my laptop. Wow, look at that. Not bad, dude. This is how you do merch. This is how you really do merch. And, you know, any shareholder that gets a package like this, you just, you know, you feel excited to rep your company. Then here's the actual package. Dude, even the packaging of this is not too bad. All right, here you go. This is the shirt. Oh, this is legit. Dude, the quality of this too. The quality. I think this was like 40, 50 bucks or something. But the quality, it just feels like a good shirt. You got software that dominates right there. And then you got the inside. Each shirt has their own number. Each shirt has their own number right there. Software. And then you got Palantir. All right, cool. There we go. Shout out to Iliano. Absolutely incredible packaging and experience. You got the American flag right there near the Palantir logo. You could tell they put in some work to make this super cool. Not bad. Not bad at all. Good stuff, dude. If anyone else gets it, let me know what you think of the packaging on this. I know Iliano has been really trying to step up the experience for this stuff, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'll link the merch store. I think their next drop is in like a week or something, but they sold out within 10 minutes last time. The next drop is no, the next drop is tomorrow. Yeah, the next drop is I'm looking at Iliana's Twitter right now. The next drop is tomorrow. Okay, so the next drop is tomorrow. So I'll leave the link right here for those that want to keep it open. But if you follow him on Twitter, you'll be able to see exactly when it goes live. But this is the link, store.palantir.com. Store.palantir.com. So there you go. Yes, it is I don't know how much I paid for it. I think it might have been 50, 60 bucks. But again, you're paying for quality and it's made in the USA. The reason a lot of times clothes are cheap is because, you know, you're buying stuff from China. So I would be willing, especially for a company like Palantir, to pay a little bit more money because it's not really about the clothes, right? It's about just the experience of repping the brand. But it is a bit more on the expensive side because it's not meant to like sell t-shirts. It's more so meant to just like be a nostalgic item for people that ends up buying the merch. Robin Hoodie 109.55. That's trying to get back to 110. It was at 107. So you're seeing a little bit of green right there. UNH 271, Tesla 342, and then NVIDIA 181. Again, these dips are getting bought. Even Duolingo from 307 to 312. So you are seeing some momentum. And then Bitmine, almost back to 70. Almost back to 70. We need hood merch. Dude, Vlad said they're working on it. Vlad responded to someone the other day saying they're working on hood merch. Because they have it, but like they haven't really revamped the entire experience. So I think they are doing that. Yeah, there's a password on the store. Iliana will give the password tomorrow. So as you can see, there's a countdown on the store right here, 21 hours. So if you're following him on Twitter, you'll get the password tomorrow. And that's when you'll get the next drop. So not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so we got 15 minutes until this bullish IPO. We're going to see what ends up happening. I think it should happen at 12. It might be a little delayed. Evan, we saw your post. You said it's the highest allocation of an IPO this year. You had about 6 million out of the 30 million shares go to retail investors. IPOs don't go live at noon. Okay, so if it's not at noon, it might be at like 1 o'clock. Yeah, we might have to cover it on the close, guys. We might not be able to cover it live. But for those that are in it, look, if you're wondering what I would do, if I'm in at 37 and it jumps up to 67, I'm selling. I'm taking my profits, even if I get banned from flipping IPOs for the next 60 days on Robinhood. But if I have one share, I'm not going to do that. If I have more than 20 shares and there's a substantial profit for me, a couple $100, $1,000, I'm taking my money. But then again, maybe I'm dead wrong, and maybe this thing goes to 100, 150 bucks. Maybe this thing just becomes massive. It still only is a $4 billion company. Could this go to like 20 billion overnight? I mean, who knows? Maybe it could. So yeah, I think that would be how I play it, but everyone has to have their own way of thinking what they would do on this one. I mean, my dad was really happy he sold Figma at 135, because it just got a bit aggressive. Figma now at 82, down 5% on the day. Now, from IPO, he would have got it at, 30? So he would have still been up from 30 to 82, but he doesn't want to hold Figma for the long term. If you want to hold bullish for the long term, then it is what it is. You kind of don't care about the weekly or monthly action. But if you're looking for some profits, even if you get banned from IPOs for the coming months based on your brokerage, maybe today is a decent day. But maybe this thing runs up like crazy and Wall Street Bets takes it to a different level. So we got to see. All right. I think that is it for me. Let me get through a couple more super chats and then we'll get out of here. Rachel, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Uma, thank you for the $19.99 super chat. Appreciate this as well. Technique by Cowboy, thanks for the $20. What 3 companies do you think will benefit the most from expected rate cuts in September? Thanks for all you do for us. It's a good question. I think Hood benefits as transaction volumes go up if rates come down. I think Zillow, believe it or not, could really benefit. You just have more of the housing market opening up, and as a result, Zillow should see a tailwind. And then in general, I mean, the last company would have to be SoFi. When rates go down, you're going to get a lot of refinancing. And as a result, I think that's a tailwind for SoFi. Tanner's been talking about this for the past couple of weeks now. Like, doesn't feel like the dilution hurt SoFi. It hurt them for a day, ended up being a good buying opportunity. And I think rate cuts are the tailwind. And I think management knows this, which is why they're pretty confident that they can get some stronger growth. And maybe that's why they dilute it to raise some cash to take advantage of the opportunity. So, yeah, I think SoFi, Hood, and Zillow, but I'm sure there's a lot of companies that will benefit from the rate cuts. We just got to see if we actually get that rate cut. Okay, let's end on this question by Kratik. Amid how big of a portfolio does one need to retire and manage it full time? What's a general number you think? All right, what do you guys think in the chat? What do you guys think in the chat? What is a number on a port that you need to retire? It's a hard question because, like, I mean, I think there's a wide range of different numbers one could use to retire. But then again, retire meaning you have no income but the portfolio. I feel like that number goes a lot higher if the only income you're getting is from your portfolio. Yeah, everyone's saying minimum of 2 to 3 million. I would agree. Yes, what I'm looking at right now, Robinhood Legend. This is Robinhood's basically desktop version of the app for those that are asking what software I'm using. Yeah, I would say you got to get in that 2 to 3 million range. 1 million, it's possible, but you've got to be aggressive with how you're yielding. Like, there's 2 ways to make money off a portfolio, or 3 ways, I would say. Selling options, we talk about that on the channel all the time. Covered call, puts, etc. Yielding the volatility of equities to be able to generate premium. Essentially becoming a market maker in and of yourself. Number 2 is day trading, which is very risky, but those that are able to do it at a strong level, their day's over in 5 minutes because they're able to get in and out of a stock and they understand how the stock moves. And then 3rd is dividend investing and quote unquote passive income from Coca-Cola and Verizon and all these companies that you have big stakes in that pay you a dividend. I think the dividend income investing stuff, you need a lot of money because you're not getting a massive yield from Coca-Cola or Verizon, right? Sometimes there's opportunities there, but like realistically 3 to 4% a year, it's hard to live off that unless you really have a lot of money, right? Day trading is a gamble, right? Either you're good at it or not. Most people are not. I'm definitely not. So that might not be the case. And then option selling, I think, is the most accessible, but you have to know what you're doing with option selling. I don't think it's complicated to learn. I think it's actually relatively simple. It just takes some practice to understand the logic behind it. But it is active management. And I do think you can yield, 25 to 30% a year if you pick the right stocks and you're able to deal with the volatility. But you also have to be willing to deal with being assigned shares. I mean, you might sell some puts on Robinhood at 107 today. And look, Hood's above 107 right now, but what if it closes below 107 on Friday and then it expires and you're stuck with shares of Hood at 107? How do you navigate that situation? So there's a bunch of different nuances to using a portfolio to yield income so that you don't have to work. But I would say minimum, you're looking at 2 to 3 million for it to even be reasonable. And, realistically, even that's being a little aggressive. More conservatively, you're talking about 4 or 5 million. Now, granted, if you're willing to take super aggressive risks, then, maybe you could do it off 500,000, right? It's just, for the cost of living, especially if you have a family, all that stuff. If you're single versus if you have a family, that makes a whole difference as well. But yeah, I would personally not suggest quitting the job to focus on the portfolio full time, unless it gets to the point where it's growing so quickly that it makes more sense to be there. But having that consistent income to put into the portfolio is always really good. Never hurts to have more income coming in. But that's what I would say. Oh, it also matters where you live. Yeah, I mean, if you live in Vietnam, dude, I'm talking about 500K, thinking of, America, at least like a metropolitan area. 500K in Vietnam, if you can yield, 1 or 2% a month off that 500K in whatever you're doing. Vietnam, Thailand, your cost of living is like 10x lower than in New York. That definitely changes the dynamic as well. The income source is a peace of mind. Yes, that's another thing. The income source is a peace of mind. The thing about the market, and this is something that's very important to understand. It's been a bull market. But if your entire income is the market, if your entire income is just like day trading or option selling or whatever, which again, I'm a fan of that stuff. But then the market crashes like we saw in April, like your whole world flips upside down. Your entire net worth could get cut in half, and unless you're really good at hedging, which I'm not, and most people don't know exactly how to hedge correctly. Because, it's a skill, it's an art, it's something you learn over time. It's not, and usually people don't hedge when insurance is cheap, like it is right now, is when you should be buying insurance. But no one wants to buy insurance when it's cheap. They want to buy insurance when their house is already on fire. And that's when insurance is expensive. So, if you have an April type of event, or not even an April event, just like a general macro pullback, the anxiety it creates by knowing that your source of income is now hit for however long the event may occur. And maybe you can play both sides of the volatility up or down, but still, like having a general income source, I think, gives a lot of people peace of mind. So those are my thoughts on it. Yeah. Or like my uncle in Malaysia. I mean, and you don't have any capital gains tax in Singapore, and you can freaking sell whatever you want. Dude, if America just got rid of that stupid capital gains tax, it only contributes about 150 billion. It's not like it's that much money. Like they could find that 150 billion somewhere else. The level of money, the velocity of money that would pour into the equity markets if people knew they didn't have to worry about taxes. Now, granted, people would also start selling a lot more too, but I think that would also mean people would be likely to take their money from Amazon profits and put it into something else because they don't have to worry about selling their Amazon and paying taxes. It's never going to happen. The United States will never get rid of capital gains, but some of these other countries across the world have done that very well. So yeah, there we go. My general thesis here is that it is not the best idea to quit a job and go all in on your portfolio unless you are properly hedged to the downside and you fully understand the risks of doing it. If you're sitting on 4 or 5 million, then yeah, I mean, like I think then you have a lot of margin of safety. If you're sitting on less than $1 million, I think it's not even a question. And 2 to 3 million, it's possible in my opinion, but it's also still very risky because 2 to 3 million could turn into 1.7 million out of nowhere, right? You own 5,000 shares of Palantir falls $10, you're down 50,000. Like that stuff happens. And so that's why I think the income source is definitely not a bad thing to have. All right, that is it for me, folks. We will be back on the market close. We got a couple of earnings. We'll take a look at what this bullish IPO looks like. And then we'll keep going from there. Again, there is no market open tomorrow. There is no market open tomorrow because I am going to be dealing with the movers. But maybe we have a market close. Am I frozen right now? Am I frozen? Am I frozen? No. No, I'm good. Okay, my screen looks like it's frozen. Hold on. Let me... Okay, am I back? Am I back? Are we good? I think we're good. Yes? Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Okay, that was weird. That was weird. Frozen for a second. Yeah, I was saying we have no market open tomorrow, but we will be back on Thursday. Okay, word of the day. Word of the day. The movers can join the stream. Dude, I really wish I could do it, but I got to be there 30 minutes early, which means I got to be there at 9:30. And that means I got to leave here at probably like 8:45. So it'll be very tough. Word of the day is, dude, what the hell is this? Pahoe hoey ho? What is this, bro? I'm afraid to press the audio button. Pahoe ho? Pahoe hoey ho? All right, here we go.
Pahoe hoey.
What is this, dude? Lava that has a smooth or billowy surface. Even after it cooled, the Pahoe hoey looked fluid, like waves turned to stone. The guide described Pahoe hoey as a taffy-like lava. Okay. What does this look like? This is what it looks like. Pahoe hoey. This is what it looks like. All right, there you go. Pahoe hoey. That's what we got. Below. Wait, how did I say what? What did I say wrong on the other one? Belowy? That's how you say it. Billowy. That's how you freaking say this thing. Lava that has a smoothie or billowy. So how do you say this thing? That's billowy. How? There's no way I'm saying that wrong. Hold on. Okay, hold on. There's a YouTube video explaining how to say it. Let me see.
Billowy. Billowy. Billowy.
Wait, what did I say? I said billowy? Wait, what? It looks like billowy, bro.
Billowy.
Okay, whatever, dude. Whatever. Don't tell me you guys didn't see billowy on that, dude. I don't believe anyone thought that was billowy. Who sees this and says bill-o-wee? Like W-E-E. No, it looks like billowy. Dude, either I'm just different from everybody else, or like you guys don't know how to pronounce words. It's one or the other. But this is getting egregious every day. It's fun learning English with a mitt. You're stressing the O too much. The O is right there. How do you not stress it? It's Bill-O-E. Goodness gracious. Anyway, Pahoe. That's the word of the day. Lava that has a smooth or... How did he say it again? How did he say this thing again? Billowy.
Billowy.
Billowy surface. There you go. That's what we got. Amit is the bear case for Duolingo. No, that's facts. I actually am the bear case for Duolingo. All right, that's it. We'll be back on the market close. S&P 643. Robinhood 108. Looks like a little bit of a red day. It is what it is. We've had a good 2 weeks in the month of August. So if we're taking a bit of a breather, I don't think that's the craziest thing. And we'll be back on the close and see how this ends up playing out. Yeah, it's not you, it's me. It's not you, it's me. There you go. All right, that's it. I'll be back on the market close. And again, I'll just say this again, but no market open tomorrow. But we will be back on Thursday, tomorrow's Thursday, on Friday. So we're not going to do anything tomorrow. Market open or market close is going to be tough to do both. But we'll be back on Friday. So it's the first off day we've had since April. So it's been about 4 months since we took a full day off. But we'll be back on the close tonight, and then we'll be back on Friday as well. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everyone being here. Let's see how this turns out on the market close, and then we'll keep going from there. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Bye, everyone. Trump is still live, by the way. I don't know what he's talking about, but yeah, he's still live. And this bullish IPO, again, it's not live yet. Probably live in the next 20, 30 minutes. So on the close, we will cover and see what happens with this IPO as well. S&P 643.55. All right. Bye, everyone. See you guys in a bit.